There you go. That way the audience can see that we're live, and then also the audio. Like, they can check the audio with us.
Yeah.
Because they're really good at that. It sucks when we, like, immediately start talking, and then, like, the audio's shit, and then they have to, like, interrupt us. So.
Yeah. So we can do, like, sit and test and be like, hello.
Yeah, have we used this before?
I like that. That's crazy.
No, this is our first time.
Cool.
Is it, how much, is this yours?
Yeah.
How much was it?
I think it was like 50 to 60.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And it connects through FireWire?
Looks like it.
This is an older model.
Oh, okay.
So the new ones are USB. The mini USBs, the new ones that charge Samsung.
Good to know. Good to know.
Cool.
There's 6 people
Got my own real nerdy blog / special interest thing that I do, and I was wondering. That's why I got the light kits. I haven't even started filming anything for it yet. But.
Don't you just love that? Where you're like, got all the equipment.
Well, I went to film school, so I have a lot of equipment lying around that I don't use anymore because I work in animation now. So a lot of it's like just sort of collecting dust, and also 10 years old, so it's irrelevant.
Well, you can do like what they did with the Black Dynamite film. It's just it's retro.
Yeah, right. Retro. The 2010.
Retro aughts.
Yeah, got that 2010 retro look.
It's such a pivotal.
You can roll it.
Look.
We are rolling.
Really?
So
good.
Oh, I don't see any. Oh, maybe. Hold on.
Yeah, refresh.
So they can they hear us?
They can hear you.
Oh,
there we go. Okay. Oh, I need to turn that down. All right.
Oh, how's it sound? Actually,
Yeah.
play the audio.
sounds alright.
Let's.
Yeah,
I'm seeing.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
seeing myself in the past.
There's gonna be a moment of silence.
Yeah, right. Retro.
Sounds good.
2010.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Immediately embarrassed and
Okay.
mortified. Let's go.
This is why I
It's always
turned
good
it
to see
down.
your face, hear your voice right beforehand.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I
we
sound
fit
like.
nicely. I thought
So,
Brian
it's like-
was gonna get cut off. But
Thanks
no,
for
we
the
fit nicely.
memories.
It's kind of
of-
tilted this way.
It's good. It's
Yeah.
good.
So now I hear my voice, I can talk differently. Oh, that's how I sound. Well, how about if I sound like this?
I'll lower my voice
But
to
make
fit
sure-
what's in my head.
Make sure we somewhat project though, just because it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Always.
I will
Something
direct
was
only
picking
in
up.
this direction.
There you go. You can even look
Speak
at the
to
mic.
sphere.
Yeah, I'm never going to make eye
Talk to the
contact with
Death
any of you.
I direct all inquiries to the nozzle.
The red light.
I'm glad you got
Little
that.
Venture
Venture
Brothers?
Brothers,
Yeah.
The nozzle. Do not make any sudden movement.
Nozzle was a good bit. It's
It
a
was a
memorable
good
bit.
bit.
Season 3, right?
3 or 4.
Did you guys read the book? The
No,
like kind of
The creating.
yeah. I
Was
Was
haven't
it
read
that big like art book?
Yeah, but it's got like really great oral history style interviews, which I feel like is my favorite kind of interview about any. You know, it's like easy to read.
Yeah. The show Andy and I are working or developing is like pulling so much from Venture Brothers. We've just been like fans of it since it came out, which makes us feel so old.
Isn't that crazy?
No, I remember when it started. I was
Like
just finishing college.
2004.
Yeah, I was finishing college, and I saw the first episode, and I was like, fucking everybody watch this.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
in college. I went to Comic-Con that year, and
We were there at the same time.
nobody really was there. Like, I think it was Jackson Public was like sitting there at a table. Nobody
Yeah.
was there. I walked up to him and I asked if he'd draw the Monarch for me. And we just talked about David Bowie for like
Dude,
a half hour while he just
fucking-
like, not half hour, it was like 10 minutes or
It's
something.
okay.
He drew a Monarch and I was like, damn.
Like, I don't know if that's allowed.
It's a lot.
I literally, my husband Andy and I have a massive collection of David Bowie. Like we own hundreds and hundreds of tapes and records and stuff, and weird bootlegs, and it's a little sad, but yeah, we own like records that have like no record of existing sort of stuff. Like we've gotten into like weirdness. So
You gotta digitize that stuff. Put it up for the
I'm
Bowie heads.
currently doing it. Yeah.
Oh,
I have a blog. That's like what I was talking about with like, yep. I have all of his weird movies that nobody knows about. He was in some weird shit.
What was it, The Man Who Fell to Earth?
Yeah, that's the famous one.
That's the famous one that I have not seen.
He did a bunch of really weird made-for-TV movies in the 90s that nobody saw, where, again, I could ramble about that for much longer. But
That's what this podcast is, right? Talking about Bowie?
Yeah, it is now because I'm here, unfortunately.
Bowie buds.
Speaking of which, it seems like we're good.
Great,
The audio's great.
Great.
No one
Richard
wants
says
to...
hi from
Hi,
Japan.
Richard.
Eric Paint Bra is in with us.
Tell him I'll be out
Hey,
there
bro.
in a couple weeks. What part of Japan is it?
Japan?
He's in Okinawa.
Which part of the country is it?
The island.
the
It's
island.
one of the it's the
Military base.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You might not be going there. You might be going to the city.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You won't be anywhere. Yeah, he's out in the islands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But if you do go to Okinawa, if you just so happen to,
Okay.
let me
Join
know.
the military.
I'm trying to find which is
You're
up further out.
like Richard, military base.
Yep. Okay. Well, are we good to start pretty much anytime?
Yeah,
Everyone. Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
sorry.
read from here.
that was awkward.
We're gonna
Ebbet is saving the day because I didn't want to do this.
Well, you're gonna do the
saving. Yeah. Don't speak too soon. Welcome to the Ass Cast. We're the cast of the Ass Cast here, sitting with you now. And our guest today, who is Justin Michael, who we know very well.
Hello! We're all longtime best friends.
Yes, we go way back.
Uh-huh.
Bowie. So Justin Michael works. His current animated projects are Infinity Train, Tree Secrets, and VO stuff.
What does VO stand for, Ebbet?
I'm glad you asked me that, Sabrina. VO is industry slang for voiceover. You see, in the animation industry, actors don't act on screen, but their voices do. Anyway, we will now speak to Justin about how he came into the industry, how he is doing in the industry, and where he plans to go in the industry. And this is not going to have any tangents at all. It will be very serious, very industrial, very professional, and you will learn many, many things about
My cheeks are killing me.
about how we industrial professionals work day to day. Justin,
Yeah.
That was like the most sexy cat.
tell me a bit about how you came into the animation industry.
Wait, no. We do have a question that we start off our guest.
Yeah.
with.
Oh, yeah. What's your
Oh.
first animation story?
Memory.
I don't get the wording right. What's
I
your
love
first
her.
animation memory, Justin?
My first animation memory. I don't even know if I have a distinct memory. I just watched a lot of Saturday morning cartoons, which is a pretty classic answer, I'm sure, for
What's
a
the
certain
first
age group.
cartoon that pops in your
It
head?
was Batman,
Okay,
the
there you
animated
go.
series.
Good choice.
I liked all that like DC superhero stuff growing up, and I think The Little Mermaid was the first movie I went to, like in theaters. My mom took me to it.
Wow.
So I feel like I grew up around like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, like those, plus like that like Animaniacs and Warner Brothers kind of comedy boom, Nicktoon stuff.
Early
90s, yeah.
It was a good time to be a kid.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, on Saturday mornings, at
Yeah.
least.
But I guess Batman, that's the
Yeah.
first one that comes to my brain, was seeing a commercial for an episode with Clayface, and it was scary as hell. Yeah.
I always admire Batman the Animated Series for, like, I feel like the design-wise, it really, I feel like Venture Brothers kind of comes similar to the designs, but they look good. It holds up really well. And the storytelling is still, like, you still see shows trying to kind of do what Batman did.
I don't know if you guys had this, but in LA, for the commercials, they had, like, they're like newspaper clippings. Would like spin towards camera, and they would introduce like it's like next episode of Batman, Two-Face is out of control. Batman has to stop him to show clips from the episode, but treat it like a newspaper periodical. I don't know if that was the case. It might have just been an LA Fox 11.
That's kind of cool.
We had Batman.
I mean, I guess, I grew up here too, so.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that.
You remember that, yeah.
So
It
I have nothing to
existed.
add beyond that.
Yeah.
That's a good memory, animation memory
So
from Justin
Michael.
Michael.
I can't tell if you're joking. Or not.
Neither can I.
Yeah.
So, what was your childhood like in school and then at home, as far as like surrounding animation? Like, I keep saying I'm sorry.
No, I mean that's a normal human thing.
This is just a slice of life, you guys. We're putting it on the table. It's unedited, unfiltered.
It's been a while.
Animation ass. So,
let's see. I was super into like action figures and stuff, and like toys based on cartoons, and so I really liked watching cartoons and then mashing up the stories and like making my family watch toy versions of them. So we had like I remember getting like
That's new.
Microsoft Publisher, which was very exciting to me at the time, and would print out like signs, put them all around the house, and then be like, okay, like at 2:30 today, everybody's gonna sit on the couch and watch 45 minutes of a child.
I did the same thing.
I did the same thing too.
I used Legos because I didn't. I was a girl and I didn't have the action figures and
Legos
Barbies.
are great too.
Yeah, Barbies would like reenact like Dallas level drama and like sex scandals and stuff like that and like betrayal.
There was even one time I even like went as far as like creating my own tickets. And then I lived in the same, we live in a mobile home park, and I lived like right down the street from my cousin's house. And then I went to their mailbox and put the tickets in their mailbox and everything. And I was like, it's on this day at this time, everybody. You gotta bring your ticket.
You guys were on one. There was no way I was inviting anybody to see me. I'd even like playing with my cousins when I was like, hey, let's play a story together, because I was like, your story's stupid. I don't want to play your story.
That does sound like a little Brian.
You don't understand these characters. Why is Leonardo hanging out with Shredder? Doesn't make sense.
I mean, I did have some of those experiences too. My sister and I would try to get her to play with me, but I would always want some sort of like action set piece to happen. And she was like, no, it can just be them talking and friends. Like, we would have like a New Year's celebration, like on New Year's, the two of us would like bring together like the Barbies and the Polly Pockets and like all the McDonald's toys or whatever, and then all the action figures. And I was like, and like any crossover, there's gonna be a villain who crashes. And she was like, and she truly would just walk out. She's like, well, I don't need to do this. I don't want people to get blown up.
And then like you probably would have to like compartmentalize the experience. Like, let her handle the relationship and family drama and like the dialogue stuff, and then you just like, all right, now shit blows up.
And that's how I learned to be a collaborator.
Right.
Yeah. You had to kind of teach people how to play with toys. Like, if you were like a pro at it, you had to like, if anybody wanted to play with you, you'd be like, no, you got to know how to do it though.
Well, it's just like everyone has their own ideas.
Yeah.
And when puberty hit, it was different, because let me tell you, I was still at some point still playing with little action figures.
Yeah, but they're gonna be like, we're gonna throw them in the closet.
Well, yeah, I remember distinctly like playing with these Batman action figures with this friend Mike, and he hit puberty first. And I don't know.
There's always the kid. Yeah.
And he just started jamming them together.
Like you do.
No, they're not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
That's not how a fight works.
Oh, little boys.
Poison Ivy doesn't want to do that.
Yes.
It's important.
Toys in development. And now
whatever doll is pregnant.
Right. Oh, God. I just remember entire nights playing out one long drama with my friend. Like, Barbies are always associated with girly girls, but I was such a tomboy. I like lived in the country and like just rolled in mud and was horrible. But Barbies were still a source of like huge dramatic like multi-sleepover spanning epics of stories and just betrayal. So much betrayal. Girls are brutal.
Okay, so I'll contribute this, and now the world can know. This is something only my therapist knows. I used to just do that with my stuffed animals at night. So I had multi-series, multi-arc.
That's
My
amazing.
stuffed animals, and I treat the stuffed animals like they're cast members. So it's like, okay, you're right for this role, you're right for that role, because it's not like I actually had a stuffed animal like the X-Men.
Right,
so
right.
Like, oh, you're big, so you're Beast.
That's how mine as well. You got to work with what you have.
So cute.
Yeah, you can't really rely on you're fuzzy, you're Beast. They're all fuzzy.
Yeah,
so.
they're all fuzzy. So it's like, who's the Beast?
But who has the personality of that, of the stuffed animals?
That's cute.
Yeah. Okay, so going on from that Batman original series, did any of the cartoons you grew up with impact your approach to cartoon storytelling today?
Or like, did it encourage you to seek out your current profession? Like, your educational.
Well, we
experience.
always ask like, at what age did you realize that writing and animation was a job and it was an actual like
career path?
Yeah, career path.
I don't know when I realized that was a career path. I think growing up in LA made it easier to understand that like these are jobs, period.
That's
so,
true.
And I think there is, which I didn't realize was helpful to understand until later.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Oakwood, which is in North Hollywood, right across from North Hollywood High, or like kind of diagonal.
I know where North Hollywood High is. So.
Yeah, so it's off of Magnolia.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I wanted to do voiceover before I knew I wanted to write for animation.
At what point?
Probably just as a kid, truly.
Yeah.
Like I was like, because I was just doing all of the voices in these shows or whatever, these action figure shows, and so I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And my uncle at the time was doing improv at the Groundlings, and so I got to like see him do shows and stuff and do comedy when I was in like middle school. I remember being very scared to go to those shows because I was like, they always like pick an audience member and roast them or something.
Yeah.
Which is now like, oh, these are like the people I know, and that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, at kid brain, it's totally
I was like, I just don't want to be called on. I just want to watch and be invisible.
And it wasn't to be mean to me.
Yeah,
so...
anxiety of a middle school person. Like, no.
Yeah, in middle school, or when did you start actually contributing to that passion of wanting to like write or do voices and stuff? Did you like in middle school or high school? Did you actually do improv clubs and stuff
or theater?
Yeah, I did theater, so I always kind of did theater.
That was the only option.
And then I also did I like met somebody in like 6th grade who's like my childhood best friend, still buds today. He works in animation. He works in stop motion. Harry Chaskin, baby. He's like a director and writer in stop mo.
Okay.
And other animation. But like he basically introduced me a lot to stop mo. Like I always liked that style, but like I didn't see Wallace and Gromit until like I met him. And like also my favorite movies were like just bad movies, and I feel like he was like a little kid who for some reason like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I was like, yeah, but My Fellow Americans is the best movie ever made.
I feel like
a movie nobody's ever heard of.
You two would balance each other out though, because there is some pure unbridled joy in good bad movies.
Yes.
That, the film auteur, like the film theorists, types don't necessarily get to experience because they're very like
snooty about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I went to film school, so it's a lot of that. Not enough cult classics being passed around there, but yeah, please continue.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. And we bonded over like pulpy shit, like we liked monsters and superhero stuff and all of that kind of stuff. So we would make short films and stuff like literally in his garage. And he taught me how to do kind of rudimentary stop motion animation, and we were just doing it with his like, I think like mini DV camera and stuff, and like
Hi8.
Yes.
Yep.
We used like True Space, which was an early 3D animation program that's garbage now, but
oh man, I
we
remember
just did
those
parodies of like The Mummy, like 1999's The Mummy.
Oh yeah, just do parodies.
I did a Lego parody of it wasn't an Indiana Jones movie. It was the Indiana Jones LucasArts game Fate of Atlantis. So I did a my first film was a feature-length Lego movie of Fate of Atlantis.
Wow.
That's a lot of work.
It was. And I didn't have any computers to edit it on, so I used a VHS tape.
So were you just like...
Yeah, I would film it on my Hi8 camera, and then I even shot it out of order, and then like would have to do the stop, play, record thing. So there's only like 2 tapes of it that exist.
So for kids who are in school, like either middle school or high school, in the direction of like basically the path that you took, what kind of classes do you think would help kids at that age towards a job that like you have? So if they want to either write or voice act in animation, what kind of like classes do you remember taking that you think really benefit you today?
I think for me it was improv. Like I was lucky enough to have an improv program. I was close enough. I was in LA, so there were improv classes you could go to, but I think like places like Comedy Sports are all around the country. I think that's like one of the earliest places you can get involved in sort of improv, because I think it feels very hand in hand. It goes hand in hand with animation because it's really like you can do anything, It's pretty elastic and based in like world building and bigger characters and feels like cartoonier. So I think that, because you're an actor and a writer when it comes to improv, like it's all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think anything, honestly, like I've pulled from everything. Like I remember like we had like some elective classes one year and I got to like learn about Hitchcock in middle school, which like kind of blew my mind. And I think just seeing the way like those films, like the shot choices and like learning about that sort of stuff. So any sort of film, any sort of, I don't know, maybe there are animation classes in high schools now.
I think it's like
now,
film language of animation.
They have like, because I remember when I was in high school, which was like up until like 2004 to 2008, so a little bit different from now, but they were just starting to have like computer classes and more like media, like how to learn Photoshop classes. Yeah. But I was still the only kid that like knew what a camera was and how to work it. It's very different now. They have like, you know, film production. And kids are watching, I feel like more than in school, it's YouTube stuff now. Yeah. You can literally get all the information that we used to have to go to college for and get a film degree to learn.
Any YouTuber talking about that stuff can provide that information.
Yeah.
Like here.
Yeah,
there's
here,
really good
channels like Wisecrack, you know, if the film theorist stuff, you know, you can learn you can learn and get an honorary, or not an honorary, but the equivalent of a media, media studies degree just via soaking in stuff online these days, which it sets you guys up huge advantage if you pay attention to it.
Oh, it's so cool.
Because we had to like schlub our way through it.
Well, I'm sure they have. I think they probably do have better film classes now for students. I wouldn't doubt it. Like if, because I remember when I was in high school, we did have a film class, and that was one of the popular classes. Yeah. And if YouTube is a big thing today, I don't doubt that they're just like, oh, these kids want to do film, and so there you go.
I mean, at the very least, even all our stories, specifically Justin Eva, has proven that like the best thing you have, even beyond the knowledge that you can obtain, is simply to do it.
Yeah, I think making stuff. I think even beyond a class, it's just like choosing to do it. Like nobody needs to teach you. Like you'll learn. I know that alone is so much better than any stupid camera that I had to track down.
Camera that was like this big. It was like the fanciest thing I'd ever owned. And this thing shoots better video than that does. Yeah. So
I mean, like the cameras even I used in college are completely obsolete now.
Yep. But what was it? I feel like the main thing that kids because you're always surrounded by YouTube and social media is great, but it also sets up this degree of perfectionism that I feel like kind of prevents people from just going and making things because you see around you like, God, that's a kid and there's they're my age and yet they're able to make such amazing stuff. They have a whole team of people making this stuff for them, by the way. But they started out crappy. Everything you do at the beginning is going to be crappy. I would never make anyone sit through my like hour-long Fate of Atlantis Lego movie.
But now we're all wanting to.
Well, I'll have to dig up.
That's the next hour, right?
Right. Yeah. I can just, I'll just use these carrots and we can just reenact it
right now. Just kidding.
We can upload it to the channel if you want.
This channel is a freaking example of what we're talking about.
To be fair, we don't have any podcast exclusives, so exclusive content.
We'll release.
You gotta draw people in.
Click the like button down below and type in a comment if you want Ebbet to make a feature-length film and put it on our YouTube channel.
Please don't do that.
if this video receives over 1,000 likes, then Ebbet has to
dig
do
it
that
out of a closet somewhere. I'm sure my mom saved it. Or we could all upload maybe our embarrassing student films. So you guys can feel a little bit better about yourselves.
I think I can find mine. They're on VH.
I have plenty of really embarrassing and shorter student films. For a while there in early YouTube, around like 2005, I made a stupid music video to INXS's Suicidal Blonde. And it was just like my guy friends being like really gay around a pool and dancing, and just being stupid. But because my video had the highest quality audio of that song, everyone on the internet was forced to watch my video if they wanted to get the highest quality version of INXS's Suicidal Blonde. So you gotta find your market and force people to watch your stuff somehow. That's the lesson there. God, I'm so sorry.
Right.
Okay, please continue.
All right, so question. Just kidding. So when you were in high school, when you were getting ready to graduate, you went to college, right?
I did go to college.
Okay. Did
Yeah.
you have an idea already when you were in high school which college you wanted to go to and why, and like the direction you wanted to take?
I kind of didn't. I think I applied to a lot of colleges I didn't get into.
Okay.
I went to a school where people were like smart and rich, and I was on kind of the lower end of that. But I think the ideal was, I want to go to like an Ivy League school because that's what you're supposed to do. And I got terrible grades in the end of high school.
So you didn't know what you wanted to do?
I wanted to do voiceover was the only thing I knew. And I was
Right.
afraid to leave Los Angeles. I wish
Glad
I
you
would have
didn't.
left.
I don't know, man. I think we were, all of us outside of Los Angeles were really wanting to get into Los Angeles as soon as
For
possible.
voiceovers, I think it's good to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a grass is always greener sort of
It's
thing.
true.
Where like I haven't experienced living anywhere else in my entire life.
Ditto.
Same
Which is
here.
crazy.
I want out of here.
Right, and I think I resented LA for a while, and now
I
I've
still
come
do.
to like it a little more.
Aw.
Oh, LA is horrible. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, let's not get it twisted. LA is, certain parts of it, like the desperation in the air is as thick as the smog.
Certain parts of the
In
city,
certain
for
places.
sure, yeah.
But it is the only city in the United States where this weirdness is a massive driving, like, economical force.
Yeah.
Like, the industry, you can actually get jobs, low totem pole jobs. You don't have to be an auteur and go the indie film route to
I was even
learn.
surprised that I talked to other friends of mine who now work in the industry from like the East Coast. They don't have the same even kind of like geek culture art scene
No.
that we have here. I'm like, New York doesn't have that.
No.
Brilliant artists from New York.
Right.
And studios used to be there as well. So.
Yeah, but it's just not at the same level. And I
Yeah.
I come from Austin, so Austin prides itself on having like a
Keeps it weird.
Mm-hmm.
keeps it. It's all condos now apparently.
It
Yeah,
does
I
feel like
Austin gentrified.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Austin's extremely gentrified.
I went there like a couple of years ago. I was like, it's like mini LA.
Well, because
It's
all the
wild.
LA people are moving to Austin, which I mean,
I'm sorry.
I thought they were
Yeah,
moving to Portland.
Also
Yeah, too.
Portland,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
all the Austin people are moving to LA in turn. So there's a lot of Austin like back and forth.
Everyone's
happening.
moving to LA. I'm seeing all
Yeah.
different license plates.
So like you went to school out here for college.
I went to school out here. I knew I wanted to do voiceover. I started in theater, and pretty quickly
good.
was like, "Oh, you don't need a degree for theater. Like,
Yeah.
you really don't." Or I didn't, and it wasn't really that fulfilling. So I transferred to film school, and I went like critical studies, which is just like writing essays about movies.
That's really cool.
I
It
wrote.
teaches you a lot.
It was great, and I think I've always been like super analytical and annoying about movies, like grumpy about talking about movies after you watch a film. So I
Perfect.
can't just enjoy it.
No, that's how
Um,
my husband and I just watched. We were constantly talking about
It's
decisions and stuff.
yeah,
I feel you though.
and it's one of those things where like that's what's fun for me.
Yeah.
And like you have to like find like-minded people who like to do that sort of stuff. But I think I took a couple voiceover classes while I was in college with like
What was the
truly-
college?
It was USC.
USC. Okay.
Yeah.
Good college.
And you don't need to go to. I
No.
feel like I learned like you don't need to go to a film school. You don't need to go to. Honestly, like wherever you go, you'll be good. If you make stuff, if you go to school, if you don't go to school, like at this point, working, I don't know, in animation and comedy and stuff, it's like everybody has a different path. Everybody has a different story. No two careers are the same.
Say that often on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
and
is why we have people like you on here.
I don't know. I feel like it's. I didn't need to go to that school. I'm happy I met the people I met because I like fell
That's the
into
best
improv
part
and
of it.
comedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I just kind of didn't pay attention to school.
Yeah.
I just kind of skated by and then mostly did improv and sketch and fell into like that sort of burgeoning video world, which is like YouTube came out while I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very crazy to experience that.
Yeah, your generation definitely had that as a thing.
Yeah. And I didn't
Yeah.
fully capitalize on it, but I started out in like just making sketch comedy videos, and like truly that I think is more important, is just making stuff.
Did you ever at any point do anything for Channel 101?
So I was super into Channel 101. I submitted to Channel 101. I never became a part of Channel 101. But in college, that was why I started making videos. It was like I submitted pilots, and then there was one called Channel 101 New York, which was run by separate people, but it was easier to get into. So I got pilots into Channel 101 New York.
But you couldn't go.
But I couldn't go. And so they never made it past the pilot. So I remember I made a really bad pilot with my buddy Harry. It's truly humiliating. It's called Testapals. And it was 2 animated testicles, Lenny and Chernobyl, and a guy, they liberate themselves from a dude, and it was like live action with like talking animated balls.
Great!
I mean, hey, that's how Justin Roiland got his start.
Yeah.
I mean, Rick and Morty literally came from a ball, ball humor.
And I remember like watching that kind of stuff, and like also that's like the earliest stuff is always kind of shock value stuff, especially if you come from comedy. Like you want to push buttons, and then ideally you kind of grow out of that or say something deeper.
Yeah. You got to get noticed first, and then you can work off of that.
And you can still like push buttons, but I don't know. I think push buttons with a purpose.
You become more sophisticated.
Yeah, you're not just saying shitty things to upset people.
Ideally, you become more sophisticated.
Yeah, that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, it's true.
Is Channel 101 still a thing?
It's
out
still
here?
going.
Oh, okay, that's a good for all you filmmakers / writers out there. That's a really good thing to submit films to and everything.
Yeah, you don't have to be local. It just helps because it's also like a community event.
Yeah, because they watch the stuff all together and have like parties and stuff. Is it monthly?
It's monthly.
Yeah.
Also, if you're not, able, there's so many local, like, if you have even a small film scene in your city, there's lots of, like, the 48-hour film project. I, did that all through college, ended up winning Best of Austin one year, and I was like, I'm done. But those are really great ways to just sort of test your skill, get a movie made. It's bad, it can be horrible, but you got it made in 48 hours, and you meet people, and, yeah, I know in Austin there were a lot of just little indie film competitions, and online, it doesn't have to be even in your town. There's lots of seek out smaller festivals and smaller competitions, because if you're having trouble figuring out what to make, the prompts can sort of help give you some direction. Is my advice there. But yeah, so was that project, that pilot idea, was that your first animated thing, or
no? Early, we did stop motion claymation stuff, in middle school, whatever, Simpsons action figure movies, or a parody of a teacher of ours, called Glumby, because his name was Glenn, but he looked like Gumby in the thing, and my friend sculpted him, and he went into different books, and that was, there were dope inside jokes about teachers, was what we made movies about, but we also loved the teachers that we were making. About, so we showed them. It's
and
kind of. They're like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah. They're like, "This is weird that I'm being made fun of, but all right."
Yeah, we were the nerdy kids who hung out and talked to teachers during lunch breaks.
That's fine.
The time.
I love my teachers. I love them more than the students.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I ended up casting some teachers in my film.
Yeah, the ones that were just down to do stuff and weren't creepy.
Right.
That's a
not
good.
Not that kind of stuff, guys. Get your head out of the gutter.
But yeah,
that's illegal.
Definitely non-college, high school.
Frowned upon.
It's still weird in college.
It's a difference of power that shouldn't be.
It won't set you ahead in your life or in the animation industry.
This is true.
So yeah, okay, but the movie from stop motion into animation.
Yes.
Where did that leap happen?
I was always kind of into it, so even while I was making stuff for, with my sketch comedy group, after college, and with, Funny or Die and stuff, I always was vying to, include animation. So, we made, a music video for this band, Don't Stop or We'll Die, and we wanted to, do claymation, grandmas in space.
Cool.
So it was, kind of finding ins to make that, and
Wait, the short's called "Don't Stop Till You Die."
It's a band called Don't Stop or We'll Die, and they had a song called "Getaway Grandmother's Club."
Okay,
that's pretty cool.
But there was another. Yeah, I think it was just honestly finding my moments to either do voiceover in our own sketches, or in I got hired at the branded content boom of whatever 2008, 9, 10.
Yes.
And so when Funny or Die was just kind of at its peak successful, I feel in terms of
R.I.P. Funny or Die.
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly like that was a community that I found. It felt like a college community after college. It felt like a
lot of people running that were in college.
It was similar to YouTube, right?
Yes, it was actually pre-YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Funny or Die? It was at the same time as
Funny or Die
YouTube.
came out around the same time.
Yeah, they came around the same time.
They had their own player, but it
like
was...
YouTube was like 2004, right?
2005.
I remember
Oh my
Funny or Die
God.
in 2004.
Well,
it was
that's
later
possible.
than that. It came out 2007, I think.
Okay.
Hey guys online, look it up
Maybe,
and
yeah.
give
But
us
it was
an answer on
concurrent.
that.
Tell us
But
we're
they
wrong in
didn't
the
use
comments
YouTube.
down below.
Yeah, they didn't use YouTube.
It was their own player.
That's
But-
right. That's right.
But yeah, just worked kind of stuff, animated stuff into the live action stuff that I was getting work to do. And then I don't even know. I didn't fully work in animation full time until
I wanna like, what was your first like your first
like
job?
a paid job outside of college.
Yeah, like how did you get that? And were you was
Okay.
it like while you were in college or like?
It was while I was in college.
Okay.
We were lucky enough that like basically YouTube became a thing. We decided to start making sketches after failing at Channel 101 a few times. And
See,
so
there you go, Channel 101.
yeah, Channel 101, I mean like any sort of community you can find.
Yeah, that's
right.
Regardless, they exist everywhere, but or online at this point. So, but I think the first job we got was people saw sketches we made, and so it was something called Current TV, which was like Al Gore had like a news / comedy station, and so we made like funny like sketchy videos about like holidays, like topical stuff.
Right.
So it was like half educational, half comedy.
They
So like
were in current Culver City.
yeah,
Quarters
but we
down.
never actually met them. And actually, the first thing was this. I think it was I forget who it was. It was like some cable channel that was like an anthology animation show. Bought Testapals for $250.
Woohoo!
They got the full exclusive rights to that bad 5-minute short to air on their sketch show.
I'm not
Munchies.
sure if you got screwed out of that deal or not. That might have been a fair trade.
Yeah, I
For
guess
your first
so.
project, at least you get paid for it.
I mean, $250, especially in college, was like blew our minds.
Sure.
But then we like
It's the legitimacy of having a project that got acquired by somebody.
Yeah.
too.
it truly, we were like, this is it, we've made it. And so coming out of that, I think coming out of college, we ended up working for Funny or Die pretty soon after. Me and my sketch partner at the time, and we just did a bunch of branded stuff for them. So it was like brands would hire us to write comedy that were basically ads wrapped up in like sketches.
How did they find you?
Okay.
We ended up getting a manager
Okay.
from doing live shows. So I'm all over the place.
No,
I found
this is
UCB,
interesting.
which is like a improv and sketch comedy theater in Los Angeles and New York. And so I started taking like improv classes and meeting people in the improv community out here, and because I was super into it in college, and so ultimately through that I started doing live sketch shows there first. Like we somehow got enough attention with our videos that we got to do live shows before we were on like house teams, and then from one of those live shows, because it's in LA, there are people like managers and whoever come to these shows to kind of like seek out new talent, and they saw us, and it was actually a friend of mine who recommended a manager come to the show. She was an intern at Comedy Central. She was a high school friend of mine who now she works in animation, and she just like wrote an episode of The Simpsons, which is super cool.
That is great.
Julia Prescott, and she
Shout out.
shout out and she writes in animation. She's great.
I think I know that name.
Yeah, she's around.
Yeah.
She
Brian,
does a
you
lot.
know everyone.
I will. Yeah.
She's really cool and funny and great. And she, I think, was an intern at Comedy Central, showed her boss a video that we made. Her boss was married to a manager. A manager came to our show. It truly was just like happenstance.
That's why it's so important to get out there and meet people, is because you never know who's gonna have the boss with the manager, wife, husband.
No.
That's how I got my first job too.
Yeah, knowing
Yeah.
people is 80%, if not more.
Yeah.
Simply knowing. And it's like, some of it's nepotism, which isn't okay, but some of it's just like, what I've said plenty of times on the podcast, people can vouch for you, they can see you. It's like, I'd rather go for the person who I know can do the work
Exactly.
versus a complete unknown. I'll take a chance on a complete unknown.
If they have an especially good resume or something, But, you know, when it comes to this kind of work, you really want to work with people who you know and trust.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot.
That's why, like, always in college, I always tell people, college or whatever school you go to, like, always make really good friends with your teachers, even if you don't like them. Still always be on their good side. And then also with your students, even if you don't like your peers around you either, but, like, always just be cordial and, like...
Don't burn bridges.
don't be a
Yeah, that's
dick.
just like a
If you
general
don't like
life
someone,
thing.
just stay away from them, but,
You'd
like,
be
still be
surprised
nice.
how
Yeah.
easy it is to forget when someone's especially horrible.
But
But
if someone's abusive or mean,
It's
fuck them.
influenced my
But-
decisions before
but
when I've been asked for help, and I'm
For
like,
sure.
"Mm,
Yeah,
I
but
didn't like you.
Ideally, people who are that awful, it's like they're nobody's friend. So
right,
you could
yeah.
hopefully
You'd be
avoid
surprised.
it. Then there's other.
It's
problems.
frustrating. They're shitty. Yeah, I mean, the system is imperfect. Is like the ultimate
Right.
truth. Is
Because
like
at some point they can become president of the United States.
There's a lot of horrible people with
Uh-huh.
horrible
Let's not
shows.
get into that.
Cut technical difficulties. I'm throwing things now.
I think it is. Yeah, it's like you do have to know people, and I don't know. I'm bad at networking. I don't like networking. I don't like actively doing that. So I think even if you are, it's just like being around other people.
That's, you know what, I think it's okay to not be good at networking, or like, I think it's okay to be bad at it, because you know what, when you're bad at it, at least you're more like, because okay, people, when we say network, don't go to events and then just like bombard people with like business cards and resumes and stuff. Like, that's not what networking is. Networking is literally just like
just making friends,
just connecting with people, just having conversations like we're having right now with Justin Michael over here, you know. So
which we're having because you guys, you know, requested it too. You know,
yeah. And I noticed people who claim that they're not so good at networking, I think they're always the best people to network with, because they're so, like, they're so much more genuine about it. You know
I guess
what I mean?
it makes me feel gross when people are networky in a very transparent way. And
schmoozy.
Yeah, and I think there's
No one
a
likes
difference. Yeah, and I think it's just like being a human, connecting with the people who you are genuinely interested in talking to, sharing who you are, sharing what you like, talking about the stuff you like, and not necessarily doing it for an ulterior motive. And I think there are other people who do climb their way up a ladder by being good at networking. So, like, I think there are different paths, but for me, it always made me feel gross. And I think I just found like-minded friends who we all just sort of came up in comedy or animation at the same time, and you just help each other out because we've all been struggling for years, and when it finally happens, you want to
help.
You want to support your friends.
Yeah. What's the point of getting up there if you can't help lift up the people around you?
Yeah, that's the dream. Is like working with your friends, and then people who remind you kind of yourself, or unlike yourself, who you believe in.
Or your passions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question though about the
I was just gonna say something. Ask a question on just specifically on that topic.
Yes.
Just really quick. Do you have any like favorite of like types of events maybe out here in LA that you can throw names? Like, we already know Channel 101 is a cool like networking type of event. Do you have any other favorite like events that happen yearly that a lot of people
periodically?
Yeah, for either voice actors or animation writers?
Here are the things I know about. So I didn't really ever go to like events. Like, I went to Channel 101 a couple times, and I know a lot of people who got into that as a community, like a monthly community.
Yeah.
For me, it was UCB and improv, but I don't even want to like necessarily endorse any one place, because I feel like every place is a little bit of a cult. Like, you don't want to like fully. You want to like just find people who like. I think just finding a community. So for me, that was improv and UCB stuff, and like. Truly, I was just a comedy nerd who liked going to shows, and other people liked watching these comedy shows, so we would just hang out afterwards and go to shows all the time, because we had nothing to do after college other than like day jobby stuff, and then just spending every night doing that sort of stuff.
Because it's either that or the existential, not like terror of post-college. Oh no! So yeah, it's a good way to spend time.
What's your favorite comedy show to go to?
Nowadays, I don't really go to a ton. I'm in one on Fridays. Every Friday, UCB Franklin, baby.
There you go.
I think I really liked, when I was coming up, there were a couple shows that still exist. There was one called Convoy, which was like these three best buds who like just did a 3-person improv show every Thursday night at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
And I remember going to AskCat on Saturdays and Sundays. I think Sundays it was
It's
free.
really close to AskCast.
Yeah,
It's
maybe
not-
you can partner up.
It's not the same. Plus, we're Ask Podcast.
Yeah, I know.
And they have more
We're
S's,
still
so
gonna call it AskCast.
That's fine.
All right.
I've been to Ask Cat before.
yeah, and they have like and at this point it's like like my friends are the cast of that, but
Okay.
we would go because it was a free show, and like you don't have money to spend, especially post college.
Yeah.
Maybe ever when you're in the creative industry.
Okay.
But I think for me it was like finding shows that I like, but I know that like at least artist friends in animation like to go to cons and stuff like that, or
Yeah, there's a lot.
That's
expos
one,
and
yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
I know that there are networking mixers, but I've never been to any of
Loop de
those.
Loop was
A lot
fun
of
one.
groups, different, a lot of different communities attract different personality types. So it's okay if you like go to one and you don't quite fit in with the people who are there. Maybe they're a little too networky for your taste, or it's really about finding your niche, your people, the people that you get along with, and then latching on to that. But I empathize with the struggle, because I'm quite the hermit type. A lot of this industry, especially animation, I feel like attracts a lot of introverts.
Yeah.
In general. So, as long as you're chill with the people around you, you can sometimes make do.
You had another question.
Yeah, what was your question?
Oh, yeah. So, regarding you finding a manager, is it different for people trying to get in, like trying to find an agent or a manager for like through acting versus through writing, or do the agents themselves wear multiple hats?
So, yeah. Good question.
Just curiosity, personally.
Yeah, no. So managers and agents are different. If you don't know that, just general you. And so like managers, I don't know exactly what their job is. The idea is that they're sort of like overseeing and helping with your overall career, whereas agents kind of get you specific jobs.
Okay.
And so there are lit agents, which are like writing agents, acting agents, so like I currently have a commercial acting agent for just commercial live action commercials. I have a voiceover agent just for voiceover. There are theatrical agents for like live action TV stuff. Lit agents, but then managers could be just like a lit manager, which is just for writing, or like an all-in sort of manager that does acting and writing. So like it's all kind of personalized, especially managers. I feel like it's more like, who do you vibe with? And right now I have a manager that pretty much focuses only on like lit stuff, which is like writing, and like when I'm pitching shows or like getting writing jobs. So I have all the voiceover stuff goes through my agent, or just because I know people at this point.
And how do you, so for someone who is trying to get their foot in, trying to pitch their own project or something like that, in your experience, how would someone go about finding and acquiring an agent? Like, is there a good directory online? I know a lot of it's very word of mouth and referral and stuff like
I think
that.
it's mostly referrals. I mean, I think you can look up like agency phone numbers, but I don't think cold calling places is really going to help.
It's scary out here because there's a lot of scammer.
Right, and if you
agents.
Google this stuff, it kind of comes up.
They're
it's
like,
hard to tell.
you have to pay this amount up front.
Yeah.
I would never do that. I think that's always, if somebody's asking you to pay money up front, that's not a legit person.
Good note.
FYI, because that was when I wanted to get into acting in college, and that was like a thing that a lot of people warned me about.
People take advantage of you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I also don't think you need an agent or manager. Like, for years I didn't have one, or like I've had managers I was less happy with, and I think most of the work comes from you putting out your own work and making things, and then like even getting a manager or whatever kind of requires, like, I did a live show which we like wrote and rehearsed and put up and got at UCB, but like either putting out videos online or making your own stuff, drawings, whatever, like I think it requires you to actually make things to show the world what you can do, which is, I think, like the only thing you can control is like what you make. And so you have to like work on your own stuff, so when that luck or opportunity arises, when somebody does see it who happens to be at the right place at the right time and can give you something, you have everything they need. So you can be like, hey, this is who I am, this is what reflects me and what I love personally, this is like
my career,
this is what I want to do. And I think that kind of ties into like the stuff you make should be whatever is earnestly what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Don't try to fit into a box. Just if you're making it for yourself, just like make the bonkers, batshit crazy thing that you love. And I think that's how I've gotten jobs. Whenever I try to make something that fits into a certain box, you don't get it because it's not like you just. It shows through the art earnestly that you don't give a shit about it.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I was just
that
curious.
was a very long, rambling answer.
No, I mean, you're the guest.
That was
You're
really helpful.
supposed to be talking more than us.
Well, yeah, because I know there's some people out here that just they feel like they have times where they're at a loss, and they feel like getting an agent would benefit them and everything for because there are agents too for even just finding animation jobs
for
as
sure.
well. You know, so yeah, I was even wondering how one goes about finding agents.
It's hard.
It's interesting because, like, sometimes, like, I've never had the experience of needing an agent or a manager to get work or even to get projects, but I know some people who do have an agent to help them get projects. It's not super common in the animation industry, specifically for artists, because, like we were saying before, it's word of mouth and just wanting to work with people you already know with, and, like, your work usually speaks for itself almost entirely. You can just look at someone's work, like, this person has skills to pay the bills, let's hire them. And it
Right.
goes that
Look at him
far.
rhyming.
Skills to
an
pay the
old
bills,
rapper.
baby.
That's old.
No, I've never heard it before, and I'm gonna pretend you invented
Definitely
it.
you did it. Yep. But
Sorry.
it's different if you have like a show that you were trying to get picked up. I feel like that, is a little bit different than just trying to find work.
At some point, like,
on something
especially when you
else.
move up that level, like
Yeah.
your creator show picture, you need representation simply because there's a lot of moving parts we're not always going to be aware of, and we could use help with that.
Well, and agents wouldn't have a profession if we could all just network openly with each other and
they
get
need to
jobs.
maintain themselves.
Yeah.
Which I get it. It's cool.
Yeah, but it's also fascinating because, like, you have this is honestly new to me. I didn't know you would get agents for different, like, literature writing and do they also work in tiers? Like, maybe your lit agent you don't pay as much for them as you would for.
Well, it's paid on like a project by project basis.
Right, they take
so
a
like
percentage.
Yeah, it's always like 10% for most agents.
Okay.
So like a contingency thing. So like you don't pay them up front. They take money out of whatever project.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
So like when you make money off of something, they get 10% of your check.
Right.
Okay.
And like I think if you have a lawyer, it's like 5%.
Okay.
Generally.
Okay.
Speaking, I mean, I think there are some agents that do like, or managers that might do like 20%, but that seems kind of wild.
Okay, so 10% is like a good average.
So this is good for all of you to know because that explains why you should never just pay money for an agent up front. Because the way it works is they get a job for you first because that's their job. Their job is to get you a job, and then whatever money you make, that's how they get paid.
Yeah.
That's why it's also.
They would have no motivation to get you work if you were just paying them.
And there's also honestly like there is like a weird cycle of like sometimes I feel like I've been in the situation or friends have been in the situation where it's like, well, I have a manager. Why aren't they getting me jobs? And it's like
you still have to work.
You still have to do the work. Like the legwork is always going to be up to you, and it's always kind of a grass is always greener. Where it's like when I've been without a manager, I'm like, man, having a manager would help me get a job. And then when I I'm like, man, maybe I don't need a manager and I should just hustle for myself because I'm already getting it just by talking to people I know.
Yeah.
So it really is like you just gotta make stuff. I think all you can do is control that end of it and make the things you love.
Yeah, and the only thing you can do wrong is not do anything at all and just like sit around and say, I want to do this so bad.
Why can't
and then
someone
you're not
just
doing anything
give me
at all.
money?
Oh,
Yeah.
And it's hard not to be in that space because I think that headspace is truly every artist feels that.
It's legitimate.
You can't not be comparative where it's like, like this person got this thing, why don't I get this thing? And that's a natural space to be in, I think. But you ideally don't want to dwell on that and realize that that's more about fears about your own inadequacy.
Channel it into your work.
Exactly. Yes. I was going to say, hopefully that motivates you to produce something.
Yeah.
Anything.
If you're like watching TV and you're like, damn, I could do so much better than that. Do better than that.
Please.
Write a pitch, put a treatment Bible together. and just even
or just sketch some of your fun ideas and
Yeah.
put them online.
Yeah, I want to throw this just example out there, just because I literally I met a fan at Ralph's the other day. I told you guys about it.
met a fan.
Yeah, he like recognized me from this podcast.
No,
It was
tell him
hilarious.
exactly how he introduced you.
Oh yeah, so I was in the little deli section at the salad bar, and then he like he was working in the middle of working, and then he approached me. He was like, "Has anybody ever told you look like Sabrina Mati?" And then I looked at him. I literally just looked at him like this, like, "Are you fucking with me?
say?
Like, do I know you? And you're fucking with me?"
Is he watching the podcast?
I don't think so. But his name is Brandon. Shout out to Brandon.
Hey, Brandon.
Ralph's.
And and then he saw the look on my face, like the look of terror, and he was like, "Oh shit, you are Sabrina Mati." And I was like, "Yes, how do you know my name?" And he was like, "I watched the podcast." I was like, "Oh, I completely
So
forgot that
amazing.
this thing existed." And then basically he said that he's into storyboards, and I asked him, I was like, "Do you have some storyboards up on a website that I can look at or something, or on like Instagram, or like just boards?" And he said no, not really, but like he's done like a couple like professional gigs before, but he's still looking. And I told him, I was like, "Well, that's one thing right there that you can be doing right now in the meantime." I told him, I was like, "Do anything. You can grab a book, a fictional book or whatever, nonfiction, whatever, and then turn it into a storyboard. Or you can reboard like another person's script or something."
And the professional work, whatever he's done, obviously get permission first if
to
possible.
post it if they can.
Post it if you can.
I think that was the case of why he couldn't post
Yeah,
it.
it's probably
So,
not-
which
not
is
able
fine.
to,
But then that's why you always just go back to your own stuff and then create your own stuff. So there you go.
Yeah, it's productive. It's building your portfolio so that when the opportunity does come, you have something to show for it.
Yeah, and people love looking at that stuff online. Like
Yeah.
even if you're not posting it, like, well, you want to post it for obviously for people to like, for the right people to notice, but then even if the right people aren't noticing, you're gonna get a following of people who genuinely love this stuff and love to like follow and like this stuff online,
And it doesn't even, you don't even need to get a following to get
No.
a job. It's crazy. Like,
not at all.
some of the people who get to make their own shows, like, they had no views on their YouTube.
Or
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have
I'm a
social
total
media at
hermit.
all.
I don't post anything to YouTube or anything like that. Like, I'm a total introverted hermit. There's still there's still hope for us.
Yeah,
I
if
like
it's
to think.
good, people
Yeah.
recognize that when they get a chance to see it. And I think people like discovering people also.
Yes,
Um,
they love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good ones do. The good ones want to lift up the talent around them.
Yeah.
So you were like dicking around, basically looking for work, doing improv stuff, selling shows. But like, when was your first like animation hit?
The first, it was working for Stupid Buddy Studios, which is a stop-mo studio. Primarily, they're known for doing Robot Chicken.
Is that Seth Green?
Yeah, Seth Green and Matt Senreich and Harvin Towner, who are known as the Buds. So it's owned by 4 people. And so my buddy Harry, childhood best friend, made Glumby, shout out. Super Glenn also. So he was working. He started working at Shadow Machine, and he worked. I forget. He was working on like Frankenhole.
Oh, you worked at Starburns.
He worked at Starburns as well.
Andy worked on that show.
And so
Yeah.
he designed he built the Frankenhole itself. And all
Probably
the
knows
fire
it.
He probably
cycles.
knows Andy.
Yeah, he's been around, and so like he
Frankenhole.
started as an intern there,
was a
and then
small
a animation PA, and he worked his way up, and then he ended up working at Stupid Buddy, and I don't know if I think he was working on Robot Chicken, and so he and I and our friend Dan Lippert, who I do comedy with, I went to college with. The 3 of us had this idea. We really loved at the time Ron Perlman and Guillermo del Toro's like real life friendship. We were like, this fucking rules. So let's
I love
make.
that you guys were fans of Ron.
It was so dumb, yeah. And like that came from like Harry when we were in middle school showing me like City of Lost Children, which
Oh,
is like
yeah.
a weird
Amazing
Junet movie that I still haven't
Fucking
seen since
amazing
8th grade. But I loved, and it, he was making like custom action figures of that, and like I think Ron Perlman was
Ron
in it.
Perlman's one.
And so anyway, we loved the 2 of them, and we thought we should just, I don't know, make something. Nobody will ever buy this. Nobody cares about this shit. But like, what if they were like best friends who lived together and they were roommates? So we made a thing called Ron and Guillermo, and Stupid Buddy was kind enough to be like, hey, yeah, after hours, you can use one of the stages if you and shoot your own thing.
Nice.
So Harry, with the help of a buddy he knew from Stupid Buddy, she helped build the puppets, but like he designed them, and basically he animated it after work the whole time we wrote, and Dan and I did the voices of Ron and Guillermo, and it was kind of like half improvised, half written, and it was just a little short. We were like, okay, well, we'll make this, and then we were like, well, why don't we bring it to Buddy? When we finished it, we were like, hey, would you be interested in making an entire web series about Ron Perlman and Guillermo del Toro being best friends? And I remember after the fact, Seth Green telling us, like, when I first heard about this, I thought this is really like stupid, or like it's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
I was like, then I saw it and I really liked it, because like nobody would make that, but we cared about it and we were just doing it for fun, and so we ended up partnering with them and selling it as a web series to L Studio, which is Lexus's video production arm, because every company needs to have like kind of
Wait, like
Lexus?
the car?
like the car, and I think it still exists.
What?
lstudio.com.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, they just have like different web shows. Yeah, nobody really
Sell
watched
your
it.
stuff
Lexus,
to L
what?
Studio.
There's people with money out there and they're just throwing it around.
Truly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, follow the money cloud. Wherever it is, it disappears every 6 months and goes somewhere else. But we sold it. They were like, hey, we don't want to build this around just Ron and Guillermo. Would you do like celebrity roommates,
That's
essentially?
That's
And
what
so
it
we
sounds like.
wrote something called Friendship All Stars of Friendship. And there are
That's a
10
good name.
episodes online, and it's all stop-mo, best friends. Some of them are canceled, baby!
Oh, Lord.
It's
Oh.
kind of...
You get Louis C.K. in there?
No.
You
but
get a Harvey Weinstein?
we got a
in there?
hard Lassiter in there.
Oh.
Not a hard Lassiter, but like,
Oh.
who knows? But,
That's what he called it.
But it was like, what if Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, were
Oh, yeah.
roommates?
They are.
It would just be waiting for Godot. Because, I mean, that was...
Totally.
They starred in that stage production.
What a dream.
Yeah.
But so
That's
we
pretty
did
great.
10 of those. So it was like Ira Glass and Garrison Keillor. Half canceled. But it was really fun.
Jesus.
And we got to just make this weird thing. And
That's a
Dan
good
got
idea.
to quit his day job at Carl Strauss at Universal City Walk. And we both I got to quit my day job. Like, and we all got to, like,
What's
Living
your
the
day job?
dream.
what was my day job?
Yeah.
I mean, it was hustling from different freelance jobs. So for me,
Okay.
I was doing Funny or Die branded stuff. So it was like a good day job, but it was not a consistent one. Like, I didn't have a consistent job until this Friendship All-Stars of Friendship job, where like we actually got an office, and we weren't paid very much, but we were paid.
Freelance is tough.
That
It's
was-
better than freelance.
Yeah, and I think it was really hard to consistently make rent with just freelance jobs.
Did you ever have a
Definitely.
point where you had to get like a regular job at any point?
Yeah, I mean, I remember for sure in between the freelance jobs, I did like gift wrapping during the holidays, like, just for like a company that needed help, like wrapping presents to send out to people, just like
It's a gift wrapper.
odd
guys.
jobs. I'm very bad at gift wrapping. Like, I truly like tricked them. Like, it was like a UCB friend who was like, yeah, we need people to like gift wrap things to send out to their clients so they can get fancy presents, but you don't. And so like I was taught how to gift wrap. It looks like an 8-year-old gift wrap something if you get something from me. Like, I really just scammed my way through it. I was like, I need money.
It's hard.
Yeah, whatever you gotta do.
I worked at like a tape recycling factory.
Really?
That was like when tape was, it would
Like,
be like
videotape?
videotape
Okay.
that like people would acquire from shoots, and then they would like erase them, recycle them, and resell them to places. So yeah, I don't know, just like
Whatever you could do.
whatever in between.
Yeah.
So this was like a huge deal to get this job, and it also allowed me to like meet and work with those Stupid Buddy guys, and like they've been super kind and helpful to me ever since. Like, it was also a smaller production company then. I
Makes a
interned at
difference.
Absolutely, which is like when they were making like Tim and Eric the last season of Awesome Show, and like Steve Brule season 1. So like, I think I just met people there. That was what I was doing in between, but that didn't pay anything.
Yeah.
I know a few people who worked on like the early seasons of that show.
Yeah, those studios, Stupid Buddy, Starburns, Shadow Machine. They're all like good small Titmouse too. They're all good like smaller studios for those of you who are like, I want to go work at Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon and Disney. If you don't want, like, if you're not getting luck at those studios,
Bento Box is also
Bento
expanding
Box.
really fast right now.
Those smaller studios are the best to like apply to because they're oftentimes they actually get
you might not get paid a lot, but
you might, because a lot of the shows aren't union, but they get a lot of fresh talent.
Yeah, I think they're good first jobs for sure, especially you know, as like a PA or something, or especially in stop mo. What I love about stop mo is it really does bridge animation and live action. Like I understood sets, they're just smaller. I understand like there's a costume department, there's a set department, there's a lighting department. So I like kind of was able to go in and direct in a way that I sort of understood. Truly tiny costumes. Also, I fucking love toys.
Yeah.
So it was like, these are toys.
You just circled back to your childhood.
Yeah. So we did it.
Major toy show.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I grew up reading Twisted Toy Fair Theater, which is what became Robot Chicken, and then I got to do a voice on Robot Chicken last year. So like all
I was gonna ask, what was your first voiceover gig, and what was your first well, because you were working in stop motion before you started writing, right?
You're right.
I was writing sketches and stuff. Okay. So I was concurrently doing both.
Okay.
So, yeah, first voiceover, I mean, was stuff that I made for myself. So it was like sketches that we sold to like little companies online that probably don't even exist anymore. But I'm like, yeah, we're doing the voices because I don't pay myself extra for that.
Right,
do that. And like Friendship All Stars of Friendship, like we did all of the voices for all of the characters.
This is a tip I've given to a lot of people trying to break into voice acting. I'm like,
voice actors
go
out there.
to colleges, people making their own films, short films, and give them your voice, your time.
Oh,
if it picked up into anything else, you are already the voice of that character.
I mean,
same
truly.
for musicians out there. I mean, not that...
Same for musicians.
Yeah.
You're right.
And if you love it, like I feel like I love voice acting in a way where like I will do it for so cheap. I mean, at this point I can't, union wise, but you know, like I'll for like friend projects and stuff. Great. Like it's like a thing that like I love auditioning for that still, whereas like writing is fucking hard. And like you know, it's kind of more of a slog, but like even a bad voiceover audition is still fun. So I think find the thing that is fun for you like that, where like even if you're not technically succeeding at it, because like I also don't book 99% of everything I audition for, and so it just wears on you. I mean, I think that's part of being an actor or anything. It's just like enduring
the competition.
Yeah, it's just like you just have to like live through like the low points of it too. It's like never going to be consistently good.
Yep. Learn to save and budget for when the good times roll in, for sure. So your current projects that you're working on, tell us a bit about how those came about, and
I want to know how you got them, and then also what's your daily life like at your current jobs.
So I am currently staffed on Infinity Train, which is a show on Cartoon Network. Premiered last August.
Okay, so new show.
Yeah, it's fairly new. I've been working on it for a little while. And so, we wrote 2 seasons. They're like 10 episode seasons. And so that's most of my daily life is I have an office there, and I'm a writer there. And I got that job, I mean, through kind of like all of these weird happenstance connections that sort of led to this point. But like the concrete version of it is I started pitching my own shows to Cartoon Network. And I was still doing live UCB shows. And one of the UCB shows, I did a sketch show called Fear the Hypercube, which was like this weird dystopian sci-fi sketch show. And so since I had met people through pitches, I would just invite whoever I had interviewed with, and they send their assistants, like development assistants, to go see shows for them if they can't make it. So some of them, sometimes it would be assistants, sometimes it would be the development people themselves. And since I was pitching stuff that was like kind of sci-fi and out there, like it's just what I liked. And there were like I had a show about elderly people on the moon that everybody was like, we like this, but
Who can we sell this
Who can
to?
we sell this
Yeah.
to?
That's so funny.
And so, but I feel like the people I pitched to Katie Krentz, who was at Cartoon Network at the time, and she was like a big champion of anything I brought in, or at least was like super cool development person. And then other people there, came and saw my live shows, and so she started recommending me for basically, like, I sent writing samples in. She knew what kind of stuff I was into, so like when they had new shows in development, they would bring you in to meet with the creator, like, hey, we want to bring on writers for a development pod. And so I met with one creator, and I didn't get the job. And then the second time I met with people, it was for Infinity Train. And Infinity Train was a short that I had watched through the Cartoon Network, like, pilot program. They had it on YouTube, that I, like, just genuinely liked already. I saw the short, and I was like, this rules. Like,
That
this
helps.
Yeah.
You enthusiastically write for something that you enjoy.
Yeah, there's
That
this
makes
like
sense.
horrifying sci-fi like tentacle monster in the middle of this kind of thing about like a talking Corgi King voiced by Ernie Hudson. I was like, what is this? And so I interviewed with Owen, who is the creator, Owen Dennis, and Madeline Maddie. I don't know why I'm doing a full name, and she's our supervising director. And the two of them, I came in, met with them, talked with them about the show, and they showed me kind of the storyboards for an expanded full pilot. So I like read through that, and we just kind of talked about what we liked in the interview, like what TV shows we were into, I asked them questions about the show, like what they were thinking it would be. I also had questions because it was a mystery at the time. So I was like, what? So like, I know you probably
Can you tell
can't
us a
answer.
bit about the show?
Oh,
'Cause
sorry.
This is, I'm interested. I'm just curious now what this is, because I'm hearing tentacle monsters and a mystery.
I highly recommend it. I love it.
Sounds
I'm
like
very
right up my
biased.
alley,
And a
yeah.
corgi?
I truly
Heard of
I
corgi?
feel very lucky to work on a show that like I would want to watch. So it's a show about a young like teenage girl named Tulip Olsen. She runs away from home after her parents decide to get divorced, and she ends up on this kind of fantastical interdimensional train that seems infinite, and each car has a different pocket universe inside, sometimes filled with puzzles, and
Nice.
she has a number on her hand, and it's glowing. She doesn't know why she has it, and she has to figure out how to get off the train.
Yeah, I wanted to know who you voiced in the show.
Oh, in the show, they're very small parts on Infinity Train, but there's in the 6th episode, there are a bunch of turtles. I am the voice of most of the turtle soldiers, and a guy named Kevin who's in a fedora and carries a phone with a cord that's just cut off.
Very
How
nice.
did those happen?
How did that happen?
Yeah, were you like in the recording and then they're like, we need a voice for this?
Well, Owen knows that I do voiceover, and
Okay.
Maddie, and I think it's also like, yeah, you're around people. We also do table reads of stuff. Yeah.
Mm.
And
That
Kevin
helps,
was
yeah.
weirdly like a character that like the one day I was gone, the whole writer's room did a bit about like, what if there's this one turtle who's talking into a phone that's not connected to anything, and it was just like this whole, it was just like a bit that I was not a part of, and they were like, yeah, that's a very Justin joke. So we'll have him voice that character.
That's funny.
That's nice.
And so I got that, and then there's like a friend in the 9th episode.
And is this a kids show?
It is, yeah, it's for kids,
Okay.
but I'd say
Right.
it
Cartoon Network, anyone can watch
kind of
Cartoon
pushes.
Network.
I'd say this one like pushes the boundaries. We get away with stuff
Teenagers.
that I'd say you don't get away with in most other kid shows. I mean, just having like a divorce as a main plot point is something they hadn't tackled before, and I think they were, it was cool. Like,
I feel like Disney's done that.
yeah,
Disney's constantly doing
Yeah.
that, but
But
Cartoon
yeah.
Network
There's-
has not. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it was. I mean, it was the focal point, I guess, being about that was something that was at least new for Cartoon Network. They hadn't
Okay.
said the word, I think.
Yeah.
So
Cartoon Network has had like edgy stuff.
Well, surprisingly, kids shows like to be really skittish about real things that children have to deal with psychologically.
yeah, I think growing up, like my parents got divorced when I was really young, and I think it would have been cool to normalize that. And I think
Yeah.
it's not something like, there's so many things that should be normalized, but like that is one of the things that I connected to about the show.
Mhm.
When I was like, oh, this is about her parents getting divorced and her going through this emotional journey underneath all of this fantastical sci-fi horror stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That, were, a show where you they kill characters on screen, and it's kind of crazy.
No, I mean, you can go as fantastical or cartoonish as you want, but as long as it has a good emotional core to it, it'll be a good show.
Yeah,
like that's a consistent across.
Adventure Time was pretty good about
exactly,
that.
yeah.
So, I get it. It's kind of the genesis of
That's
that.
what sets them apart from just noise.
So you have your own office there.
Yeah, so the day-to-day. So I got the job after an interview, and then I sent them like a really long email afterwards, where I was like, okay, here are all the ideas I have for future seasons, which like truly
Really?
could go either way.
I was gonna say,
it's
that's
either
a
like
That's really gutsy.
Bold.
Risky maneuver
I would
there.
say it was more of a panic move. And I was like, I really want this job, and I feel like I didn't express what I wanted to express in the interview. And so I was like, here are all of my thoughts, and I wrote them like a fucking novel in an email.
Question: have you asked them how they responded to that yet?
I did ask Owen. I was like, so you remember I sent that email? He was like, it was long. But I think
Owen's chill.
what I put in that email showed my enthusiasm for the show, and at least like that I was thinking deeply about these characters and the scenarios, and like where I had specific takes on what I wanted to do with it. And so I think that's part of what got me hired, is that like I was excited and enthusiastic and wanted to live in this world.
Have they used any of your ideas?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, we built it all together. Yeah, after the
He's
first.
the writer.
Well, I mean, like in that email.
Yeah,
I
from
was
that
curious.
email.
Yeah.
I mean,
Of course, they use his
He
ideas
works
now.
on the show. They never use
some
his
of them,
ideas.
yeah.
I meant from that email.
I got
Why am I here, guys?
I understood what she meant.
I mean, I think we worked a lot of those ideas.
He's just there
into
for them to
stuff.
be like, no.
Yeah, I'm there to be like, you guys are smart by comparison. I bring the bad ideas.
Well, even to just to buttress that, it's like it's all collaborative. So ideally, your experience, initially concept of the show, working with other writers and the creators, you kind of like form new ideas from those.
Yeah. It was super cool. So I got in on the ground floor of it, where it was just, they hired 3 writers, including myself. There's Owen, the showrunner, Maddie, supervising director, and it was just the 5 of us. And
Shut up.
yeah, truly, I mean, and like I lucked out. It was my first like regular, W-2 job. Like, it was all like 1099 taxes, baby. That's what you want to hear about. But like, truly,
It's tax season.
It makes a difference.
it really
Sorry.
does. And you can get like,
Trigger.
I joined the Animation Guild, and so like, you
Makes
get
a
benefits
difference.
through that.
Yeah.
And so the beginning, the first 2 months, it was in development. We didn't know if it was going to be greenlit to a show. So our job was to expand upon what Owen and Maddie had already come up with Cole Sanchez. Who
I remember Cole.
Yeah, and he works on a lot of Cartoon Network stuff, and he's great. And they like beat out the whole first season, the first 10 episodes, and they had the kind of log lines and characters, but there was a lot of stuff that was really different, and we kind of reshaped everything. And actually, that turtle episode is one that was totally new from our group of writers. And so we kind of came up with, we had to kind of like repitch and sell the show to the network in those sort of 2 months, and then we kind of waited to hear if it got picked up. It got picked up, and then slowly but surely, production people and board artists and everybody sort of trickled into the show. So I watched it grow, which was very cool. And I think the cool thing about Infinity Train, and I don't know about other shows because each crew is different, is at least as a writer, we are very involved with like a lot of parts of the process in ways that, at least talking to other friends in some other companies, they're not. It's a script-driven show.
Depends, yeah.
Yeah, which means that I'm sure you guys talk a lot about stuff being
script-driven. Yeah, Cartoon Network often has board-driven shows,
and I think we tilted them maybe into more script-driven. We were the first script-driven show in a while because it was a mystery and it was
plan.
It just had to be like a tight 11 minutes. Like for me, it was really hard to write 11 minutes, but like try to make emotionally resonant characters and jokes.
That's smart.
Yeah.
But Owen and Maddie came from board-driven stuff. They came from regular show.
Owen was a board artist on regular show, and then
Close Enough.
He was on Close Enough.
Also.
Oh, okay, yeah, and then wasn't Cole from Adventure Time?
Yeah.
He was a board artist on Adventure Time.
Yeah,
right?
So they came from all board-driven stuff.
Yeah.
So it was very cool to me that Owen wanted to do something script-driven.
Yeah.
And so we hired writers that were just like writers, but we all loved animation. And at least like I've always been a visual thinker, and so where am I even going with this?
How this show's different than other Cartoon Network shows.
Oh, I guess I
Writing
feel lucky
process.
that I get to sit in on board pitches and revisions, and also like I could, I've sat in on color meetings and stuff, and like get to contribute to that sort of stuff.
Are you the head writer?
No, there's no head writer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just 3 writers, and then Maddie and Owen, and everybody contributes to story, but only the 3 writers write the script.
So, like, super specific.
Yeah.
Like, you go in tomorrow for work.
Yes.
What do you do?
Okay. So, depending on the day, we usually have 2 to 3 writers' meetings a week.
Okay.
And they're usually like a few hours. And let's say we're working, it depends on what part of the process we're in. So, in the beginning, we just have we go on a retreat, and we go out of town, and we kind of brainstorm the season. And we think about, like, what do we want the emotional theme to be? And what are some fun car ideas? Because it's a show where, like, anything can happen, and there are different cars.
Oh.
And so we get a big kind of beat board, and we put stuff up and put different ideas up. And then we sort of have the general story arc and the theme and how we want to pitch it to the execs. And then we bring that back, and we pitch it to them. They usually have notes. There's approval. And then once we have approval to move forward, we write premises. And so we kind of like flesh out each episode, shift stuff around. And so premises are usually 1-page versions of the episodes. So each we do a 3-act structure, just because that's what I knew. And I think they,
Well, if you've only got 11 minutes to do it in, I feel like, there's a dog outside the door. But yeah, a 3-act structure would make sense for that kind of a time frame.
Yeah.
Trying to deliver a story in that tight of a window.
And we do a paragraph an act. So basically, I'm an overwriter. It's very hard for me to write concisely.
I do the same, yeah.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. But some people are better at writing succinctly. Alex Horeb on the show, who is another writer, great at writing succinctly. I am not. Lindsay is not. She's great at many other things. We both are bad at being concise initially. So like you have to write like 1 paragraph per act, and then those get approved by the execs. Then we turn them into outlines, which is basically 1 page per act. And so that's where we sort of put in like some of the jokes, if there are jokes, and then like flesh out the visual details and stuff and really dig into it. And ideally have a clear enough outline that the script is easy. And then once we get to the script, we basically have 1 to 2 drafts internally. We send the 3rd one out usually to the execs. They have notes. And by the time we're recording, it's probably, sometimes they go through 6 or 7 drafts for Infinity Train. And they change based on boards too. Like if things get reboarded or we're like, oh, we want to cut things here. It's cool that we get to be in the room and like rewrite it on the fly with them.
Okay.
And the board artists also at that point join in, and they bring everything to life and make everything cooler and better, because they're all really talented.
Is it everything like 2-week turnarounds, or like what's it like for the
around
turnarounds?
2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually we have a good amount of time for Infinity Train, a little more than I think most shows, but I'm not sure.
Different shows, different standards. For example, Teen Titans, the scripts are done out of house, not in house.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. A lot of
That's
out of
weird.
house scripts.
So like they'll get usually a little more time because they have like you can have like several writers around town working on different things, so you don't need anything immediately. And also those aren't like consistent narrative structures. Like I could write an episode and you could be writing an episode and we don't have to relate at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then like Rick and Morty, they have like a big writer's room.
Right, I have a friend who writes on Rick and Morty.
Okay, yeah, right, they're the same person. So for Rick and Morty, the writers are just mainly on the front end. They don't do any of the back end until Dan wants to change everything, which is frequent.
Yeah, every show. I mean, I feel like I know some people on some Disney shows where it's like they hand off their 1st or 2nd draft to a head writer, and the head writer, they don't see it until boards,
right? And
they're like, "Oh, I guess this is all changed," and like that's not necessarily bad. It's just that's their process.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question. Transitioning from being a writer, writing your own stuff for your own stuff, onto like being a staff writer, like finally getting like this professional, W-2 standard writing gig.
Taxes.
What were some of the like ways you had to adapt? Like lessons you learned transitioning into like professional writing, and like that you could, or any advice I guess you could give to people trying to make that switch?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Be less controlling. I feel like by hustling and doing your own stuff, you are the little director and creator of everything, including your career. And so for me, I'm like really perfectionisty about stuff. And I've worked with a lot of other collaborators, but mostly they're friends I've come up with. So I never was just kind of... I sat in on a Nickelodeon room, but it was still half people I knew from UCB. So this was the first time, for the most part, where I didn't know everybody. So I think it was learning to be collaborative and taking notes better and trusting people I didn't know as well. And which sounds dumb, but I think it really was hard for me at first. I think especially a few of us, when you just fight over jokes, and not like angry fight over it, but like being precious about stuff in ways where like now after a season we knew each other so well where it's like, oh man, like I can write the not perfect version of it because it's going to change anyway. Like there's the shitty draft and we know that we'll all bring it to the point it needs to be together. And so I think trusting that process and not like overworking myself for the first draft.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's good because it's things you don't think about that you always find yourself having to adapt to, not expecting.
I guess the power of outlines. I think outlines are really so important. And I think whenever I'd written scripts early on, until I took like a screenwriting class like a year before Infinity Train, I really like hated the work of getting to the script, and I would just dive into it, and I would have kind of messy scripts that like I would have to ultimately work harder to fine tune in the end because I didn't do the work up front. But like when you have a good outline, the script is so easy and much more fun.
It's like you can like arrange things and figure out beat by beat.
Yeah, because you've done the work.
The way I would describe that, especially coming from the cartooning side, is the fact that like I see a lot of people who try to animate and create a story straight ahead, like no boarding,
thumbnails.
Yeah, they wouldn't even do that. They wouldn't even board the.
They just like start animating.
Yeah.
Oh my
story
goodness.
out of it. I'm like, that's
a mess.
insanity. And when I was in college, I was the only person who did like storyboards. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. I was like, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Yeah, because I just can't visualize without I like think of it in the small terms to know where I'm going, and then eventually I'm just like start here, start there, start there, start there.
Yeah.
Process.
A lot of it's like not being too precious with your own work too.
Yeah.
To be able to like go in and figure out the nuts and bolts of the story you're telling.
And
it's so hard
and relying on
it is. It's not easy.
And also like relying on other people's opinions sometimes when like you show it to them, because sometimes you're too in it and you can't see the flaws, or you're too concerned with the flaws and you don't see.
Yeah, and somebody can be like, no, this is great, or like, oh, actually this is the part that doesn't work, not this part that you're worried about.
Yeah, because to me I'm like, oh, it's genius and everything's perfect. It's like, oh, maybe this doesn't connect as well as you think.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the it's genius, everything's perfect, or this is garbage. But there's no middle ground, which is like where most things lie, and you can rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. But yeah, getting outside perspective, that's why it's good to like form these communities and get to know people who you trust and come up with when you're younger, because those are the people you lean on, either even if you're like in a room, probably like you can show your work to somebody that you're really close with and be like, hey, does this check out?
Brian actually gave, like, the last time you came over, you gave us like such a good little on
your pitch.
Because we've been doing like a series outline, just rough to see kind of where the trajectory of our own story is gonna go. And he came up with an idea that just like completely fixed a momentum issue going into our hypothetical second season that we totally didn't even think of. But it was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
It's a dream, right?
It's like a great guy to run ideas by.
I'll keep that in mind.
That's what I've been told.
Yeah, collaboration is key.
And now someone's just gotta give me money.
Right? That's nice when it happens. And then it doesn't happen, and then it happens hopefully again.
Yeah.
So we want to get into some fan questions.
Right.
Yes.
We got some questions going over here. Go ahead and like answer them as concise as possible so we can get through as many as possible. That's fine. I think we got your story, unless there's any last things about your story that you'd like to be like,
you brought notes.
You only
get to bring notes.
That was me the last time I guessed hosted, and then I didn't have time this one. I was like, man.
Can I read off these things that I wrote?
Do it, please.
I love it.
Just one more hour and a half. Here are the things that I wrote when I was like, here is the advice I would give.
Well, yeah, we were gonna ask that eventually.
Oh, never mind.
We'll save that after the questions.
You'll never know. You'll just have to see the field notes, Joshua Tree notes.
Or tune in to the end of this
Yeah.
video
The
to
field.
see the advice. Oh, now you have to watch till the end of the video.
Advice. You can call it advice, guys.
I'm sure some of the questions people may ask might also be real.
I refuse to answer them if they're in this book.
Yeah, okay,
I'm
there you
saving
go.
it for the end.
That's
better
cool.
guess
That'll get this.
All right,
faster. Okay. Here's a question. What's the toughest part about writing for television and the best part?
Ooh. Oh, man.
Thank you, Eric Pink Bra.
The toughest part about writing for television, I think one of the toughest parts is getting notes that you disagree with, especially at first. And it's easy to be reactive about those notes, especially because sometimes there are dumb notes, and sometimes there are really good notes, but you are, being an egomaniac about how you respond to it. And I listened to this, I think it was like the what's that? Whatever Craig Mazin, John August podcast about writing. They did
you should recommend it.
They did an episode about how to give notes for development execs, but I think it's great for anybody who receives notes as well, and because you give notes in writers' rooms. And I think it's just like remembering that, like, on the one end, you treat your scripts and your projects kind of like they're your children, even if you have children. And so we have these like fight or flight responses to receiving notes, because it's like, you're trying to kill my baby.
Yeah, my baby is,
Yeah, my baby is
gifted
perfect.
and talented. And
Artists
the
are
best
the
for my
same, by
baby.
the way. When artists get notes,
Oh, yeah.
I've been reactive before to certain notes where I'm just like,
Yeah.
you could have worded that differently.
Yeah,
You didn't
take
have
some
to say it
time,
like that.
cool off,
You know,
figure out your...
It depends on your attachment to the project.
Yeah, for sure.
it's not even attached to the project. Sometimes it's like literally how you communicate things.
I mean, there are bullshit notes.
Yeah,
But like you said, the way you react to that is what matters. Because like, I don't mind doing notes that make sense. I'm like, oh, I didn't see that. That makes sense. Got it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to do notes that don't make sense sometimes to you or in general.
Yeah,
and I think that's one of the hardest.
And it helps
Okay.
that if you understand that and you like, how can I still make this work but satisfying the note as well?
It's a puzzle.
Yeah, and it makes it better. I know that one of the things that happened on Infinity Train is, I think it was a note that gave Tulip a number on her hand.
Mm-hmm.
That was not in the original pitch, and that was added.
Cool.
So that was Owen who did that. I wasn't a part of the project. What I saw, there was a number on her hand.
When I hear that, I think of the manga to Live, Die, Repeat. All you need is
The
kill.
whole idea reminds me of Galaxy Express.
It is Galaxy Express.
Yeah,
too.
Galaxy Express
Galaxy Express.
combined with like Snowpiercer. That's what it sounds like to me. Yeah.
But
what was the best part?
I think just seeing it come to life and collaborating, seeing every step of the process is so fucking cool. To like see these characters move and talk and walk that like you came up with is very cool. Also, when you get to voice them, it's a damn dream. So I think that is the best part, is watching everybody do what they do well. And I don't know, that's like the teacher in me, because I also taught. And it's like, you just want to, it's so cool to see people express themselves, and it like is so collaborative, and like that's cheesy, but it can't happen without everybody, and that makes me very happy. It makes it feel like a family. I taught sketch comedy and improv through UCB.
Oh, there you go.
So
that's cool.
I don't right now, but sometimes.
Yeah, that's cool. Give back.
Yeah,
it's cool. Nick asked, "Are you in the Writers Guild, SAG, or Animation Guild?"
I'm not a WGA member. Would be great, but I haven't worked any WGA projects. I'm in the Animation Guild, and I'm in SAG.
SAG is required for voiceover gigs, right?
Yes, union
voiceover.
Ones, yeah. So I got into SAG because of commercials back in the day. That helped pay the bills initially. I was in a lot of commercials, but now voiceover.
Okay. Oh, my mom was like, "Did you guys doodle a sticky note yet?" That's afterwards.
Not yet.
What kind of jobs have agents gotten you, Nick? Thank you for these questions.
Mm-hmm. I haven't gotten jobs through writing agents, but through, I guess, this Cake show I got through my manager. Cake is a animated kind of show on Hulu and FX. That's like or animation live action kind of anthology-esque show. And so like he set up the meeting, and we met with the guy who was heading the program, and truly it was like the last pitch of the meeting. I was like, also, I went to the woods and we got stoned and saw faces in trees, and maybe it's this thing called Tree Secrets. And then stop motion animated faces on real trees, and he was like, I like this one. Let's go with that.
And that reminds me of goddamn Return to Oz.
Oh yeah, which
Yeah,
I just
the
saw
Gnome
for the
King.
first time a year ago, and we
Is it
in
the
our
greatest?
when I watched it, we
Yeah.
put it together.
My
The
favorite
Gnome
film.
King, like it's like the rocks
Yep.
kind of form into a
That
face,
Yeah.
give me nightmares.
This is my favorite.
and that was part of our
They didn't do acid
pitch,
or
like,
anything.
Our pitch Bible was-
I'm glad that inspired.
yeah, there was like a visual, but it was like that and like creature comforts and that kind
Oh,
of
creature
stuff.
comforts.
But it was
Wheel-
like,
yeah.
the Wheelers, they
The
scared the
Wheelers.
shit out of me.
and I
That was,
don't know.
that's a cool movie.
I need to rewatch it.
It's
as
on
an
Disney
adult.
Good.
Plus.
Really?
I like the heads,
It's
all
the-
the heads.
I was-
That was scary
I'll
for
take-
me too.
I'll take credit. I was probably the first person to watch on Disney Plus.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah.
My boyfriend asked, "What was the craziest or most interesting thing that has happened for you to say to yourself, I'm definitely doing this for life?"
Huh.
Good question.
Thanks,
Damn,
boyfriend.
That is a
Thanks,
good
boyfriend,
question.
Richard.
I don't even know. I feel like I used to do a podcast called Batman the Animated Podcast, and I would interview the people who created the show and made the show.
Oh yeah, I did find out about you.
And
Yeah,
so
amazing.
I sat down with like Kevin Conroy one time, who's the voice of Batman, and truly I had like turned into a 6-year-old in the beginning of it, because that was like when I first watched the show, and I was like, I'm sitting with Batman.
Whoa.
This is weird. And I was like, well, I gotta keep doing this. I want to work in animation. This makes me deeply happy. So that wasn't like and I think seeing Infinity Train air was very, very, very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to pronounce your username. It's Mercurigo.
Mercurigo.
I'm so sorry.
Mercurigo.
I think you're giving it an honest effort, and that
Yeah,
means
right. I'm trying. What does it take to create a channel for television and then also for streaming?
A
something. A channel?
Yeah.
Like
Like Cartoon Network? Like how do you make Cartoon Network?
you exist in the 90s.
I guess
Have a
for
lot of
streaming is
fucking money.
probably more.
Be a corporation.
Like, how do you make shows for streaming?
What does
or-
it take to create a channel for television for streaming?
Let's just do show creation.
What's the best
Yeah.
stop motion gear for low budget? There's another question.
Stop motion gear for low budget?
Yeah.
I wish I knew. I know Dragon Frame is a great, that is the go-to program, but I don't actually do the animation myself. Since middle school, I have not actually animated. So I'm sorry, but check out Harry Jaskin.
I was on one stop motion show and we used iPhones for one of our stages. We had 2 iPhones, 2
There you
actual
go.
cameras, and I think we had maybe a 7D.
Yeah, I mean, we had DSLRs and stuff, so it was like, as long as
anything that can take a
they're not going to fall
picture.
apart, and you just hot glue them down to the ground. Truly, hot glue is a necessity in the stop motion set to keep that.
You can get those
tripod
little remotes for the camera that are cheap nowadays to go
my
frame
friend
by frame.
Dylan created a thing that was a remote control using a Nintendo
Yes.
Power Glove.
Cool.
And so he did
Finally
it.
a use for the Nintendo.
He
Power.
did it for our
Wow.
project
Right.
first, and then it kind of blew up online. But basically,
Very cool.
we used a Power Glove for one of our stages.
So you can start, stop, record.
He is a madman, and he is great. And he
amazing.
also built in some sound effects that, when you finished a shot, you would fist pump him and went fucking awesome, and it was very fun.
Yeah, I would definitely look that up.
Tech people help. How do you revitalize your passion for what you do when things start feeling constricting? Personally, not generally. Constricting, whether it's creatively, mentally, or emotionally.
Oh man, that's really good because I feel like
Thank
I'm
you,
going.
Richard.
Yeah,
We all go through that.
yeah. I'm going through it now. It's really hard, even when you're working on stuff you love. Because shit happens that you can't control in life, in your family, and wherever. For me, I need space. I think and everybody's different, but I think it's tuning in with who you are and what you need. And I know that I like nature. I like going to Sequoia or the woods or taking a long walk. And I think journaling, writing, real therapy based stuff. Shout out to therapy, baby! If you can afford it, it should be
Richard
free.
knows
but
I'm obsessed with
Medicare
therapy.
for All has therapy.
Yeah, and I think whatever you can do
Same.
to kind of get quiet with yourself and really tune into why do you want to do what you want to do, and if it's creatively, it's kind of getting in touch with what you actually care about versus what you're trying to do just to achieve the goal. And I think also just like what's the root cause of what's going on like personally. Like I think
therapy
and soaking up other stuff. Like I love going to see other art. Like in addition to like going into the woods and seeing like beauty of nature and all that shit. These trees that are older than me. I think it's also like, you know, going to experience other things and like experiencing the world, and that is inspiring. Sometimes we forget to take in beyond like watching TV and stuff, which I think just going out into the world.
I know for me, like turning off the social media is kind of a really good way, because everyone is like really trying to project this image of everything's great in my life, super successful, and you're only seeing like that part of it.
Yes.
And it's hard to even like be original when you're like constantly absorbing stuff from social media, and you're like, damn it, my thing doesn't look like that, or it doesn't look like that, or I don't look like that, or I look like that, so therefore I'm gonna fucking fail, or I'm failing right now. And it's like frustrating. And then like you see people that are like they're the next big thing, and then you're like, what the fuck, this person just like, I don't know, did something stupid, and they're like, and then you start to just overthink things, and you're just like, so I have to be gimmicky now, and it's just like, no, so just
get in touch,
detox.
Get in touch with like what you know, the part of yourself that loves to create and why you like to create.
Yeah.
And you know, I know for me, I like research. I like reading books and like getting into you know, some nerdy thing where it's like, oh, you know, and then I'll put those ideas into a journal, and eventually those will make their way around into the things I write.
Do you write in like a physical journal?
I do. I carry,
like pen and paper so much more.
Yeah,
than...
I carry around a little notebook with me. Not here because I ran out the door, but you know, I have like a whole list of
journals.
I
have journals for everything.
I love markers. I'm OCD about colors and stuff. Where I'm like, this is fun. Like I'll pick a marker, and this is my mood today, even if I'm giving notes on a script. Like, But yeah, I think there's something about the physical act of writing that.
And you think you're going to remember things, but you won't. So having, like, being able to write down that, just even if it's a little snippet out of context, I've so like, gone and used that years later.
I've written out dreams before, and then I went back, like, just recently, and I was, like, I was reading a dream that I wrote out before, and I was, like, reading it, and I was, like, I don't remember this, and I was, like, reading it again, and I was, like, freaking trippy.
Oh yeah.
Truly, I had a dream, and this is dumb, but I was like, oh, this is a comic. This is a mini-series.
Yeah,
I was like, this is bonkers. This is too bonkers to be made into a TV show. The comics, I feel like, is much more accepting of batshit crazy ideas. And not every dream is an idea.
Alan Moore.
Have a dream journal for all you writers out there. I think that's actually something very interesting and fun that you can dabble with. What was the most funniest or creative Easter egg you wrote or voiced into a show?
Funniest or most creative Easter egg?
Yeah.
I
just want to get the jump on those YouTube listicles.
I don't even know. Like, I'm trying to think of like. Well, there is an Easter egg in Infinity Train Book 2 that I don't know if people have noticed. I'm afraid to even say this. But there is an episode called The Tape Car, which I wrote, and Maddie, our supervising director, had to design a lot of, like, floating bodies. I'll keep it vague. Okay. But she was like, who do we want to be in here? And there are recognizable cartoon characters in there.
Cool.
And recognizable enough that you could say they are them, but also legally they are not them.
Yeah.
And Batman the Animated Series, Bruce Wayne is for sure on the Infinity Train. He's floating in there, I believe, with Jay Sherman and Mary Worth. Like, I think.
Oh, I know Mary Worth. It's an old comic.
Yeah, so like we all got to pick different characters. I think Jay Sherman had to be less Jay Sherman because his silhouette looks too much like Jay Sherman. But you can see Bruce Wayne floating in there.
That's hilarious.
Because he got problems. He's got to be on that train. So.
But I did that for the Rick and Morty pilot. There's a sequence where you can clearly tell all the sci-fi inspirations I put in there.
It's so fun.
Oh, yeah. I know that. Yeah, you know yeah. I was like, there's no way.
Okay, I think let's have this be our last question so that Justin Michael here can give us his field notes.
No, if people want it.
They may answer a lot of the questions too.
No, I think like this is probably where we're reaching it.
Oh, I know. I mean, like the stuff in his notebook will probably answer.
Yeah, for sure. Richard, thank you for these great questions. These are actually really good questions.
Yeah.
What's your favorite show or movie in your field that you could watch a million times and never get tired of it?
Ooh. I really do like Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh my god, you're my brother.
I'm a little nerdlet.
No, that's the number one movie of my list all the time.
Yeah,
that
love
Brave
it.
Little Toaster.
Oh, I haven't seen that since I was a
Brave
kid.
Little Toaster is so. You and like where Return to Oz and Brave Little Toaster are like the darkest kids things.
Love Brave Little Toaster.
Sorry.
The
I'm sorry,
Batman
please
animated
continue.
series, specifically Mask of the Phantasm. Did you go to the screening they had a little while ago at the Egyptian? They're like I
saw it years ago at the Egyptian. They did it like 10 years ago.
10 years.
Also,
so
they did it. No, but seeing it in a theater was very cool. Yeah, I think that. I mean, all the like Batman will always be one of my faves, but I also grew up on like The Simpsons, and I feel like rewatching like at least my era of Simpsons, the earlier seasons,
First 10
were like
seasons.
Yeah, like it always. I always like they fucking killed it. You can't get better than this, and that's probably just because I am nostalgic for it. Partly,
No, it's objectively
and it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, first 10 seasons of The Simpsons are like flawless television.
For me, yeah, I agree. It's like comedy. The comedy is perfect for me. So those are things I could rewatch forever. And recently, love Tuca and Birdie. That was like probably my favorite animated anything.
Alex.
Ooh, it's so good.
Sailor.
Alex was on it, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to pronounce his last name.
Salyer.
Yeah. We want to say sailor, but it's not sailor or Slayer.
Give us Alex.
Slayer.
Okay, so big question. What kind of advice do you have for people?
Well, I'll tell you. Because I wrote too much.
We love it.
I truly wrote like a little like, what are the things that led to where I went?
This is what writers do. They write notes.
Yeah, but then I didn't say most of this shit.
Well, that's fine. This is why we're asking
I'll take
now.
a picture of it.
Let's
see. Emulating is natural, and it's okay to help you learn things. I think I had like a voiceover teacher who said, "Plagiarize, don't shade your eyes. That's why God made your eyes." The voice of Papa Smurf.
Oh, nice.
And basically what he meant is like you should, at least for voiceover, like copying a character, your take on that character will be different.
Yeah.
And like truly, that's what all those Friendship All Stars characters that I did were bad impressions of celebrities that now, honestly, some of them have just become go-to like bag of tricks voices for like when I play side characters on shows. It's like, okay, you're this weird bird that keeps getting hit with a mop, which was last week's record. And I'm like, okay, well, that's this guy.
The phrase I heard was good artists steal, bad artists copy.
Yeah.
It's a difference. There is a difference. Like Alan Moore has openly said he wants people to steal his work, not keep adapting it for film and TV. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's like use it to inspire what you do, and in the beginning you're gonna be emulating stuff you like.
Yeah.
I think it's how do you do otherwise? Like the media you consume at any point in your life influences what you're interested in.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you not?
Yeah, I mean that's truly all you
grew up in the cave. And
everything's a remix.
Here, make something.
Yeah, and if you did grow up in a cave, you probably have way more interesting stories to tell than any of us.
It's probably very interesting, but like, will an audience understand it?
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah. Plato's Allegory of the Cave. All right, please.
Let's see. Find a group of like-minded friends, artists you can share and grow with. Covered that 100 times. I think I said it too much. Be as specific and personal as possible with your own work. So I think that's like, don't try to fit into a box, but like just make the shit you want to make. No two career paths are the same. Try not to compare to others. I think it's natural to, but you don't want to dwell in it. Perseverance is the hardest part of this industry. Because shit's always going to get hard again, even when you succeed wildly. Learn to work with and trust others. I feel like I talked about this. Make stuff. Nobody knows what you're good at until you can show them.
That's a good.
And I think that comes with like the why am I not being hired for stuff? And it's like, well, your friends and you might know what you're capable of, but like until you get it done and finished.
Yeah.
And finishing things is so hard. There's so many things like people start or I've started that it's like, and then I don't know, I'm afraid of they're not living up to my expectation of what it is in my head.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna trust that it's gonna be what it is, and you'll always grow and get better. And finished products are the only way people will know what you can do.
Another thing I want to buttress that a little.
Yeah.
Mind. I've talked about in the shows like people don't know what they're good at, but what they want to do until they do it. So like a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be a writer or a designer or a storyboard artist or an animator. But like but you don't like doing that until you do it. Then you're like, I hate this. It's like, good, you did it. You find out you don't like it.
And I didn't
find
think
something
I
else.
wanted to be in a writer's room. Personally, I was like, I don't think I want to work with other people on writing. I can only do it alone. And I was afraid to do it. And then I did it. And I was like, this is so much easier.
Yeah,
and you get to write something, and then other people fix it for you.
Finding out what you don't want to do is just as important.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
seriously,
Like relationships.
It's
Yeah,
okay
it
to
is.
say I don't want to do this and find something else to do.
And that's not failure. You know, I think we
No!
equate like not doing the thing we thought we wanted to do as failure.
Yeah.
Finding what you actually are good at and or give you joy is like way better than trying to do the thing that it just isn't a fit.
Yeah.
Oh, engage with the world. So I guess that was like what do you do when things are hard in your life? And I don't know, I think, but in general, just always, I read this kind of like, it's like a pretty well-known like self-helpy book, which I didn't finish, but it's called The Artist's Way.
I love that book.
And the core tenet of it is like, even if you don't finish it like me and you're bad at that kind of stuff,
Audiobook,
That's just the
Audible.
artist's way.
well, and there's so many exercises to do in it that I was like, I can't do this, but like the one thing that they tell you to do is like write 3 pages a day, just like get the garbage of your brain out. And the other important thing was an artist date where like you take yourself out to do something that is not to do with work and just like do something in the world, like see a play, take a walk, go to the comic book store that you don't ever go to because you're working too much or whatever. Self-care. And I think it's like just doing something just for you, and that you'll just discover stuff like taking a walk. You're like, that flower is a character.
Yeah, I love that you recommended that book. That book is like the best book, therapeutically, and like you said, like it's good for self-help, and it's good for any artist, like at all. Period. You can be a writer, you can be an artist, or you can be just like, and if you want to be an artist of just like creating your own life, like that's just a really, really good
not
book.
as a profession.
Yeah.
And I'm not particularly like a religious person, and so I think it uses a lot of God language. And I mean,
But you can apply it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's like I had to like, and no shame or shade to like people who are subscribed to any sort of religion, but it's like I had to get past the language of it to be like, oh, there's still shit to take in from this book that is important, and like it's just language.
Yeah, I'm big in like spirituality and like metaphysics and stuff. So whenever I like talk to people about this stuff, they automatically will like hear like the word God or source somewhere, and then it'll turn them off to it because of religion.
Yeah, and then you gotta spend like 5 minutes being like, no. I mean the concept of
consciousness and
For me, I had to like replace the word in my head at first. I was like, okay, the mysteries of the universe, the scientific mysteries of the universe, because I'm such a fucking nerd. Like I was like, okay, there are things we don't know about how things work, and that's how I have to funnel whatever they're saying God is. So
I don't need any of that, so I'm just like, just take a walk.
You can also just take a walk.
Also take a walk.
Take a walk.
Their exercises in that book are really, really good.
Or you can watch Malcolm and Me. I'm watching Malcolm and Me right now.
Why is that so familiar?
Because it's a good show. Bryan Cranston's in it. It's
Malcolm in the Middle?
Malcolm in the
like
Middle.
the
That's
new
one.
one.
Yeah.
No, isn't it?
You can watch Malcolm and Me in the Middle.
Wait, no, is it Malcolm and Me, the new version?
No, I got the name wrong.
I could have sworn
It's
there's
totally
a show
Malcolm
called...
in the Middle.
Malcolm in the Middle is an amazing show.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant the one with Bryan Cranston.
There is a
Malcolm
Malcolm and
in
Me
Me.
now that's out now. I could have sworn that there's
like
I've
a
thrown
movie
this-
called Malcolm in the
Maybe it was with a dead dog.
Guys,
Marley
that
and
one?
Me. Marley and Me is the dog.
Okay, so I got
We just conflated things.
I'm very sorry.
I mean,
Malcolm in the Middle is good though.
I think Malcolm and
That's
Me
my
might be a
only
documentary about something.
Get out of your head. Watch
and Malcolm McDowell,
in
great
the
actor.
Middle.
Yes.
Malcolm McDowell in
But not
the Middle.
Malcolm in the
Yeah.
Nor Malcolm.
Would love that show.
What if there was a
Right.
Malcolm in the Middle? It's just all the famous Malcolms.
Good God.
You like resurrect Malcolm X and throw him in there?
Yeah, I'm sure they would all get along.
Yeah.
They
I'm so sorry.
Richard and so wait, Merc. Do you know a guy named Merc? MERC?
He says his name is K.
K. His name is K.
K. Merck?
He says
It says K says hi.
K says hi.
To me?
Yeah.
Hello? I'm trying. I mean, yeah, sure.
You're like, maybe he knows everyone.
Yeah, I'm not
they
right now.
him and Richard, they want to know are real monsters or angry beavers?
For me, it's Ah Real Monsters.
It's a generational thing.
I watched both. Angry Beavers, I think, was on the tail end of me not really wanting to watch Nicktoons.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I even was into Ah Real Monsters. I just kind of watched it. I liked how it was like a little gross for me, but I still liked it. But I was like, ugh.
Did you watch Duckman?
I watched a little bit of Duckman, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would be more into those shows now.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's riskier. It's more interesting. Like, look
Yeah.
at these weird, squiggly freaks.
I actually thought the designs in Our Monster were perfectly appropriate for Cosby.
I think.
Yeah, they were very.
Don't quote me on this, but I think the guy who made Angry Beavers is now working with Weird Al on like a project.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that an animated project. Industry tidbit.
Yeah,
I was more of a Rocco person.
Rocco's
Rocco,
Yes.
yeah. That's a lot
Rocco's
of people's preference.
Doug.
That
I like
Ren and
Doug.
I
Stimpy
like
was
Doug, too.
another one.
I have
that
friends
a
who
lot
don't like Doug, and they're wrong.
I think it's all the stuff that, like, even like Hey Arnold, I didn't like watching, but I watched, and then revisiting it, I'm like, oh, this is like a
Hey
smart,
Arnold is
quiet
legit.
show.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, Hey Arnold's very
And
good.
I think it wasn't like my little, ADD brain wanted like action and stuff, and like there was
Yeah.
some, but I was
Yeah.
like, oh, these are like really great lived-in characters,
Yeah.
and there's some like deep sadness in that show.
I like
Yeah.
Rocket Power.
Rocket
Is that the
Power.
pizza one?
No, that's the skateboarding,
Okay.
Skateboard
surfing,
kids.
Cosby Chupo,
Yeah.
extreme kids.
Yeah.
Who delivered pizza?
Hey,
What am I
No one
thinking?
does pizza.
Yeah,
There's not
well,
pizza.
Yeah. Wait. What would
No,
you
I don't
say?
know what I'm thinking of. It's probably Samurai Pizza Cats, you guys.
They have pizza there.
Malcolm and Me.
It was probably on
Malcolm
Malcolm
and
and
Me.
Me.
Malcolm and Me, yes,
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Malcolm in the Middle got picked as a series over Heat Vision and Jack by Rob and Dan.
Interesting.
Oh,
yeah,
hi,
that's
Abed!
That's
I just
right.
like Bryan Cranston. He's basically playing Walt from Breaking Bad,
but
but
not
like the
going bad yet.
yeah, it's like a
Pre his
parallel
spiral.
universe.
Yeah.
It seriously is. It's
So
freaking
good.
me out because it's the same
Bryan
character.
Cranston's a very much underrated actor, even still.
Yeah.
You know, he was in Power Rangers.
I did. He was one of the voices, not credited because he was using a pseudonym or
Pepper Ann.
something.
Sorry, Red Pepper Ann.
No,
Pepper
Remember
Ann's not bad.
Yeah,
That
Pepper
was
Ann's
good.
good.
So, I guess this is where we wrap things up. Where can people find you online, Justin?
I am at Hey Justin on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to listen to the Batman podcast, it still exists in its entirety. Batman the Animated at BTAS Podcast. And also Before You Were Funny is a podcast I did where we interviewed writers and comedians, and they brought in their oldest, worst work. And then we did a live table read and kind of deconstructed where they were at, why they wouldn't do that now. But also, I feel like it is good for people learning how to
That's
do
cool.
stuff. And it's fun. And we had a lot of really fun guests on it who are just more famous now.
Cool.
Yeah.
We should have guests bring in
Podcasts.
like their old student films and stuff like that, and just
That'd be fun. That should
Yeah.
embarrass them.
could be more content on our channel too. So
Yeah. So like where they were and where they've grown.
yeah.
Yeah.
That
God,
could be
I-
like a segment, a series.
I had to show my thesis short a couple of weeks ago, and always.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I think that'd be a good idea for our channel.
It could be a sub,
We should
you
do
know,
it.
sub
Yeah, a
series or something.
sub-series.
I know.
A segment.
And there's always a nugget of who you are in those things.
Yeah.
It's like,
There
this
definitely
you
is.
lose who you were.
Yeah.
People want to see like how you were in school, you know, like a lot of the
Yeah.
people who are successful today, they want to see what the work was like in school.
Yeah,
you know?
it makes them feel better about
Yeah.
themselves too, because we were all
Like-
dumb kids at one point.
yeah, not like perfect, you know.
No.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words of advice or any words of I know we're gonna go to Brian's words of wisdom before we close out, but any last words that you'd like to
Yes.
tell our audience?
Oh man, I mean, I read you a list, so I've already indulged. Yeah, just make stuff. Make what you love, make what you care about, and put it out there, and don't stress about it being perfect.
Well said.
Yeah.
Brian, what's the words of wisdom today?
Just, like in part from like Justin's story, I'm thinking about the nature of like being in the right place in the right time and knowing people, obviously, because like your career started primarily because like the internet and social media became a thing where people were producing their own content, also with making stuff. So right now, the golden age is like we showed our phones. It's like use your phone to produce animation, do stop motion, write with things collaboratively. That's everything. I would say. Less important than, like, literally, I would say, don't even worry about, like, if you need to move out here or if you need to go to school.
yeah. Internet's kind of made that
just
less of a priority thing.
Yeah, make things, and you can put it online, and then people will discover your stuff.
Yeah.
It's very helpful.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah, because Justin and I actually had the advantage of being in the city.
Yeah.
So, like, during the hard times, I was living in my parents' house for, like, 5 years, even while I was working, simply because it's difficult.
Yeah.
And
So-
expensive.
Yes, in the city. So, like, if you can't make that, if that's not realistically, economically feasible for you, make every advantage you have, which is the internet, and just do it yourself.
Yeah.
Find your local film communities too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never know.
You don't
really
always
do.
have to. Life doesn't only like start here in LA. It can be anywhere you want in the world. It doesn't have
LA
to be
just
one
believes
specific
that
place.
LA is the center of.
Yeah, more
Yeah.
and more, there are so many different hubs that are like expanding for opportunities in animation and writing and
Around the
comedy.
world.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah, and if it doesn't exist in your area, then make it exist.
Yeah, that's true.
All
Just
right.
online.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you,
Yay!
Justin, Michael.
Thanks,
guys.
Thank you so
This was
much.
I'm gonna
David
eat.
for
Goodbye.
filling in.
Goodbye. He's just like bye.
Goodbye.
Leave it. Chop
Like,
it down on the mic.
share. Oh wait, we're not done. Like, share, and subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you have, he was actually a requested guest. What? Oh, my cut off. Sorry.
Center.
He was a requested guest. You have fans.
I guess. Thank you.
So if you
whoever.
have any like people that you would like to request for us to interview, go ahead and drop it down in the comments down below. You can find us anywhere on, obviously here, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just search Animation Success Stories Podcast and you're bound to find us. And that's it.
Yeah.
Tune in next time, guys. We love ya. Bye.
Bye. Watch Mouth.